Chapter 131. Intense golden flames were released as he spun rapidly, causing the huge lightning claw to be unable to close in. Meanwhile, Ji Dong, under the protection of the intense golden flames, soared into the sky and broke through the encirclement of lightning. This was the Flame Sovereign King's ultimate technique that combined both attack and defense, scorching sunspin. Fury laughed out loud and raised his right hand. The huge lightning claw immediately chased after Hyoheim. At the same time, the Thunder Monarch's eyes lit up. In midair, a bolt of lightning tore through the sky. Amidst the intense rumbling, it forcibly dispersed all the fire elements above Ji Dong's head. The numbness brought about by the lightning covered the sky and covered the earth. The lightning in the sky, together with the huge lightning claw from below, attacked from above and below, forcing Ji Dong into a desperate situation. However, at this moment, Ji Dong's eyes lit up. Intense golden flames were like viscous magma. The Yin fire formation behind him suddenly shrank, and the Yang fire formation instantly enlarged, expanding to a diameter of 3 meters. His eyes had completely turned into a dazzling golden color, and his entire body suddenly expanded. A terrifyingly proud aura instantly burst forth from his body, and his body also underwent changes at this moment. His entire body expanded with the wind, and the dazzling golden flames seemed to have become a part of his body, combining with the white sun crown on his head. In the blink of an eye, Ji Dong's body had already grown to a height of 3 meters. His body was the core, and his exterior was completely formed by the golden Binggu, primordial Yang, sacred flames. The sun crown on his head had turned into a golden crown, and an incomparably proud and domineering aura, filled with an irresistible sovereign king's arrogance, was instantly released. Regardless of whether it was the lightning exploding in the sky or the huge lightning claw below, at this moment, they all seemed to be intimidated by the sovereign king's arrogance and could no longer advance. The blazing heat and ruthlessness of the extreme Yang fire completely erupted at this moment. It was the sovereign king's descent, flame sovereign king physique. After a year of cultivation, Ji Dong was able to use this truly powerful, profound meaning just by relying on the formation formed by the sunfire. The transformation that had once subdued 2 heavenly knight-level powerhouses, if the vermilion bird transformation was said to be an increase in his own defense, then the sovereign king's descent was the sublimation of the 2 sovereign kings' wills and his own ultimate dual flames. Flame Monarch! Soaring Serpent cried out involuntarily. This time, even Yin Xiaoyang's face revealed a look of surprise. He could clearly feel that under the effects of the body of the Inferno Monarch, Ji Dong's strength had once again taken a qualitative leap, even more so than when he used the vermilion bird transformation. What was even more powerful was that once the body of the Inferno Monarch was activated, Fury's Yang lightning element, which was originally not suppressed by Ji Dong's extreme flames, immediately showed signs of being suppressed. The most obvious manifestation was the lightning claw in the air, where the lightning glow of the claw itself weakened by half in an instant. Yin Xiaorong asked doubtfully, "Lon Lon, what flame monarch?" Soaring Serpent said solemnly, "I finally know where little Dong Dong's fortuitous encounter came from. What he possesses is actually the power and skills of the former ruler of the underground world, the Flame Monarch. No wonder this is the monarch that controls all Yang attribute flames." Yin Xiaorong and Yin Xiaorong did not know about the 2 monarchs, but how could Soaring Serpent, who had existed since ancient times, not know? Seeing Ji Dong release the body of the Inferno Monarch, that kind of pressure of a monarch descending upon the world, the kind of control over the Yang fire of the world, finally revealed the veil that had been covering all his doubts. In midair, Ji Dong's right foot stomped downwards. With a loud bang, the lightning claw turned into lightning elements and scattered in all directions. The vermilion bird wings behind his back spread open, bringing with it the terrifying monarch-level extreme Yang fire. The wingspan actually reached a terrifying 7 meters, and like a falling meteor, it smashed towards the Thunder Emperor Fury. The powerful pressure actually caused the previously condensed lightning elements behind Fury to show signs of dispersing. Attribute suppression had appeared. Fury's mutated Yang Thunder attribute had already been completely suppressed by the extreme Yang fire released by Jidong's body of the Inferno Monarch. Fury had never imagined that he would encounter such a situation. His strength was 3 times higher than Jidong's, and although the Yang Thunder attribute was not the extreme Yang attribute, it was already a powerful existence that surpassed the ordinary 5 elemental attributes. The power of lightning was the condensation of the righteous chi of heaven and earth, so how could it be suppressed so easily? However, the result that appeared before his eyes was that he was completely suppressed by Jidong's attribute. The reason why Jidong was able to defeat stronger opponents was because of the suppression of his attribute, causing his opponent to not even be able to unleash 70% of their full strength. This was the first time in Fury's life that he had encountered such a situation. His power of lightning seemed to no longer be able to produce explosive power, and the originally violent power of lightning actually showed signs of weakness. The Thunder Emperor was the Thunder Emperor after all. Even in the face of such a sudden change, Fury did not panic. Instead, he let out a maniacal laugh and faced the descending Jidong. His hands spread out by the sides of his body, and the lightning elements behind his back were instantly sucked out. Immediately after, his hands formed into claws, and his palms faced each other, making a stretching motion. An incomparably violent power of lightning appeared once again, and in that instant, it forcefully stopped the suppression of the lightning attribute. Intense lightning spread out from Fury's body, turning into a gigantic lightning orb with a diameter of 3 meters, enveloping his entire body within it. On the bluish-purple lightning orb, a fine electric net flickered with an almost incandescent glow. The Thunder Emperor's method of dealing with the suppression of his attribute was simple, direct, and even a little violent. It was to compress the element to the limit, compressing it to a terrifying degree, and forcefully dispersing the fear of the attribute. To dare to use such a method on the most explosive element of lightning, Fury's character was undoubtedly strong. The golden-red sovereign king of flames descended from the sky against the Thunder Emperor who had the extreme Yang lightning power on the ground. The 2 similarly huge energy orbs, golden-red and bluish-purple, collided with a loud bang. Boom! The ruthless aura filled the entire space, and the intense impact waves caused the tides in the distance to instantly roll back and evaporate. The 2 silhouettes separated abruptly in the midst of the collision. The bluish-purple lightning and the golden-red extreme Yang flames were extinguished at almost the same time. The light in the sky dimmed for a moment. This was a unique phenomenon of the elements in the air being destroyed. It was not a killing technique, but it was more powerful than a killing technique. The collision between Jidong and Fury and the Tyrant and the Thunder Emperor had actually produced a scene of the space being destroyed for a moment. Jidong's body was sent flying like a cannonball. Although Fury had not moved from his original spot, his legs had completely sunk into the sand from his knees down. The terrifying airwaves caused his strong muscles to temporarily cave in, and the piercing lightning was instantly restrained for a moment. Jidong was sent flying for 50 meters before landing on the beach. His entire body was sent flying for another 30 meters, plowing a deep ravine on the beach. Although there was no longer the light of the flames on his body, the clean sand particles still turned into gas and disappeared wherever he passed. Fury's face flushed red. He opened his mouth and breathed out, and a thick golden flame actually appeared in the air. Fury's expression only returned to normal after he breathed out the entire breath. He was secretly shocked. What a powerful extreme Yang flames. In a situation where there was such a huge difference in magic power, he had almost been heavily injured. If not for the fact that his body was close to an elemental body after reaching the Seven Crowns realm, he would probably have been the one defeated by that attack. "Little junior brother, are you all right?" Fury shouted loudly. On the other side, Zhu Yin was about to run towards Jidong, but he was stopped by Yin Zhaoyong, who said, "It's not over yet." Yes, it was not over yet. 80 meters away from Fury, Ji Dong actually slowly crawled up from the ground. At that moment, his body was already scorched black. It was unknown whether it was because of the extreme yang flames or the bombardment of Fury's lightning. Only a dark blue luster could be seen in his eyes. With a forceful shake of his body, the scorched black color on his body disappeared. Fury was surprised to see that the vermilion bird armor on Ji Dong's body had turned from milky white to dark blue. The shape did not change, but the color had such a special change, which was clearly not caused by his attack. With a puff, Ji Dong spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood directly turned into a dark red flame in the air and spread out. With a slight twist of his body, the previously incomparably fiery tyrant seemed to have transformed into a cold demon king. There was not the slightest human emotion in Ji Dong's eyes, only extreme coldness and cruelty. Yin Zhaorong looked at the soaring serpent in shock. "Lan Lan, what's going on?" The soaring serpent chuckled and said, "The vermilion bird can give him the vermilion bird transformation, so why can't I give him the soaring serpent transformation? I'm not as stingy as the vermilion bird. Don't worry, even if Fury uses his full strength, he can only defeat him at most, but not kill him. With the vermilion bird transformation and the soaring serpent transformation, unless it's a monster at your level, it'll be hard for him to die even if he wants to. Furthermore, this little guy's body seems to have been soaked in dragon blood. In terms of body, I'm afraid that even you and Yin Zhaoyong might not be able to compare to him. Now you should understand why I supported little Dong Dong to participate in this great war of holy and demonic." Yes, this was the soaring serpent transformation. At the instant when the Flame Sovereign King and the Thunder Emperor collided, Ji Dong released the soaring serpent transformation. Compared to the vermilion bird transformation, which was completely external defense and form, the soaring serpent transformation was completely internal. The only change was the color of the vermilion bird's inner armor. Within his muscles and bones, the soaring serpent's demonic power was completely released, fusing with the external. At this moment, the strength of Ji Dong's body was completely comparable to that of a heavenly stem divine beast. The mouthful of blood that Ji Dong spat out was completely the residue of the demonic power that had accumulated in his body. Fury naturally did not know what had happened to Ji Dong's body. Seeing that he seemed to be completely fine, he could not help but be shocked. At this moment, Ji Dong let out a long howl towards the sky, and the yin-yang crown that had originally disappeared appeared once again. This time, it did not change into a pure attribute, but instead appeared in the form of a black and gold yin-yang crown. As he howled, the 4 crowns on Ji Dong's body lit up at the same time. He circled his hands on both sides of his body, and then put them together in front of him. The black and gold rings of light seemed to overlap. This time, it was not just 2 rings of light, but 1 ring after another extended inwards, all the way to the center of the 2 rings of light, where the vermilion bird and soaring serpent totems were, and appeared to shrink inwards. Ji Dong's howl became louder and louder, and the 2 great runes rose into the sky, floating behind his head. Compared to the condensed runes, the size of these 2 runes was much smaller, only about a foot in diameter. It was just enough to cover Ji Dong's head from the back. And at the same time, the 2 runes rose behind his head. For a moment, a loud dragon roar sounded, accompanied by a cold, hissing sound. 4 rays of golden light, 4 rays of black light, a total of 8 rays of light shot out from the 4 crowns on Ji Dong's yin-yang crown and rose into the sky at the same time. In mid-air, they spread out, revealing themselves to be 4 fire dragons and 4 soaring serpents in the form of energy. Each fire dragon was 10 meters long, and the soaring serpents were more than 7 meters long. Ultimate Yang fire and ultimate Yin fire erupted in an instant and pounced towards Fury at the same time. These 8 rays of demonic power, each of them had been condensed by Ji Dong for at least 3 days and stored in the yin-yang crown, which was also the ultimate technique of the soaring serpent and yin-yang chuyang. With Ji Dong's current demonic power, If he only used their demonic skills in battle, he could at most condense one dragon and one serpent. The reason why he could display the power of 4 dragons and 4 serpents was because of the runes behind his head. Among the 5 elements runes, this rune was called the Eternal Life rune, and it was also the 4th rune that Ji-dong had comprehended. Previously, it only took him slightly more than a month to comprehend the 3 runes of the Bing and Ding fire elements. However, in the more than a year at the seaside, he had only comprehended this one rune, which showed how profound this rune was. Not only that, Ji-dong also discovered that the further he progressed in the 5 elements runes, the more difficult it was to comprehend, and even more difficult to use. The 4th rune that he had comprehended was called the Eternal Life rune, the Yang fire rune, and the Yin fire rune. 3 months ago, after Ji-dong comprehended the 4th rune, he discovered the mystery of it. Its greatest benefit, as described, was in the word eternal life. With the help of the yin-yang fire rune, any skills below the ultimate killing technique could be stored in the yin-yang crown. The number of crown devil masters could store the number of skills they had. Ji-dong was a dual attribute devil master, so his eternal life rune was also doubled due to his unique advantage. At this time, the fire dragon and flying serpent that Ji-dong had released were the foundation of the demonic skills that he had learned from the flying serpent and Yin Xiaoyang. Most of the demonic skills of these 2 powerhouses were displayed in this way. It required a huge amount of energy to condense them. It took Ji-dong more than 20 days to complete the condensation of the 4 dragons and 4 serpents. At this time, when he suddenly displayed it, not only was Fury shocked, even the eyes of Yin Xiaoyang and the flying serpent were filled with disbelief. It should be known that even the Supreme Master Yin Xiaoyang could only release at most 9 fire dragons at one time. Of course, the power was much greater than what Ji-dong had released at this time, but the number was also limited to 9. Chapter 132. Although the Thunder Emperor Fury possessed the Yang Thunder attribute, he and Ji-dong were fellow disciples of the same sect, and he also learned the dragon-shaped demonic skill. When he saw the 4 dragons and 4 snakes suddenly appear, he was immediately startled. Previously, when Ji-dong transformed into the Flame Monarch's attack, he had already been greatly surprised. Even though he had used his tyrannical demonic power and demonic skill to forcibly block it, the ultimate Yang fire released under the Flame Monarch's body still brought him a lot of trouble. Now that he saw the 4 dragons and 4 snakes again, Fury realized for the first time that his junior brother's strength was enough to pose a threat to him. In the next moment, the Lightning Emperor Fury fully displayed the difference between 7 crowns and 4 crowns to Ji-dong. Facing the sky, Fury let out an earth-shaking roar. He spread his arms, palms facing the sky, and his roar was like the long roar of an enraged dragon. The 7 crowns of lightning on his lightning sun crown flashed, transforming into 7 dazzling bolts of lightning that soared into the sky. Suddenly, one dragon roar turned into 7 dragon roars. With Fury's body as the center, the space within a diameter of 50 meters was completely filled with lightning bolts, distorting extremely violently. In midair, the 7 lightning bolts actually turned into 7 huge lightning dragons. They were exactly the same as Fury's Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon Mount, just that their bodies were slightly smaller. This was one of Fury's strongest sure-kill skills, 7 Dragons Heaven-Shaking Art. Ji-dong, who had the strength of a 4 or 5 crowns, could only use his own mana to release 1 dragon and 1 snake. However, the 7 Crowns Thunder Emperor could release 7 lightning dragons at the same time. This was the difference in mana. 7 lightning dragons against 4 fire dragons and 4 snakes. In midair, the sky was already completely filled with bluish-purple lightning, golden-red extreme Yang fire, and black extreme Yin fire. In terms of momentum, Ji-dong's 4 dragons and 4 snakes had the advantage in terms of quantity. Fury's expression was solemn. He waved his hands in the air, and the 7 lightning dragons resonated with each other in the air. They formed the shape of the Big Dipper and went straight for the 4 dragons and 4 snakes. He wasn't confident that he could gain the upper hand in this attack. At this moment, he naturally didn't have the time to think about how Ji Dong did it. It was also at this moment that a mysterious smile appeared at the corner of Ji Dong's mouth. At the same time that the 4 dragons and 4 snakes were released, he had already flown up once again. Just like when he first attacked, he was still flying close to the ground, but this time the yin-yang crown above his head had completely turned a deep black. It was the black color of Ding Si's dark, yin spiritual fire. The yin fire condensed into a matrix to replace the life-sustaining matrix, appearing behind him like a black hole. The thick black flames instantly expanded, and his body once again became 3 meters tall. Dark Flame Devil King. The soaring serpent could not help but exclaim. To think that there are actually 2 sovereigns. That's right, what Ji Dong was displaying now was the Dark Flame Devil King physique, the opposite of the Flame Monarch physique, Dark Flame Devil King's descent. This was not the first time that the Dark Flame Devil King had appeared. Back then, when he was facing the 3-crowned Fire Devil Master in the Earth Spirit Mountains, the Dark Flame Devil King had appeared proudly, taking on the opponent's killer move and completing the counterattack. That was the Dark Flame Devil King's natural reaction to being attacked by a fire attribute opponent. The current Ji Dong was no longer that weak little Devil Master who could be sucked dry in an instant. He already had enough power to release the Dark Flame Devil King's pride. Fury naturally saw Ji Dong rushing over again, but he had instantly exploded his killer move, 7 dragons shaking the heavens, and he still had to wholeheartedly control it, so he could not free up his hands to launch another attack. In his view, although Ji Dong, who had transformed into the Dark Flame Devil King, was very strong, he was far less of a threat than the 4 dragons and 4 snakes in the air. Yin Xiaorong looked at the huge magic power that was about to collide in the air, laughed, and said, "Fury, this silly boy, has been fooled. It's just a bluff. Even if he has a special method to store magic, what he can store is only 4 crowned dragons and snakes. He can't control such a huge magic fluctuation at all." Ji Dong's movements were extremely fast, and he had already rushed forward dozens of meters in an instant. Suddenly, his body stopped abruptly, and the Dark Flame Devil King physique instantly converged a little. A strange scene appeared. A dark crescent moon quietly appeared behind him. Even the 4 dragons and 4 snakes in the sky and the 7 dragons shaking the heavens seemed to pause for a moment at this moment. The surroundings were still bright, but the strange thing was that the sun in the sky had disappeared, and what replaced it was actually a crescent moon that was exactly the same as the black moon behind Ji Dong. What kind of killer move is this? Even Yin Xiaoyang's pupils involuntarily shrank. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Ji Dong. Ji Dong's left hand was raised horizontally at his side, and his palm was opened, forming a claw shape. At this moment, he no longer had the valiant ruthlessness from before, and was no longer the tyrant of the generation. Instead, he was filled with elegant coldness. Under the contrast of that death-like darkness, he was already like a real Devil King. From ruthlessness to coldness, the change in temperament was already strange enough. However, the black moon in the air actually shot down a dark ray of light and landed on his left hand. At the same time, the black moon behind him and all the darkness brought by the Dark Flame Devil King merged together. On the ground, there was a bright moon, but in the core world, there was only that dark, death-like darkness. This dark moon represented all the darkness in the core world. The moon will make you think of me. Forbidden 100,000 silent flame ice. All of the blackness condensed into a pulsating black flame above Ji Dong's left hand. The black flame actually reflected a strange luster. It was clearly a flame, but it gave off a strange feeling like ice. In the next moment, this gloomy and strange black flame had already slid close to the ground with an arrogance that bordered on hysterical. Everywhere it passed, it left behind a path of death-like darkness. The sand on the beach was actually covered with a layer of faint ice crystals, and the grains of sand in the ice crystals quietly disappeared in the black ice. There was no astonishing aura, only that ice-cold coldness and that deep, gloomy, death-like silence. Jidong's body also followed closely behind that gloomy black flame and quietly attacked. In order to increase his speed, the soaring yang flames formation was activated. The elegant, gloomy coldness quietly changed, and the golden red flame turned him into a ruthless king. Fury cursed in his heart. At his level, he would have a vague sense of the enemy's attack, and he would be able to sense whether the opponent's skill was blocked or not. However, at this moment, when facing this ball of ice-like black flame, Fury realized that he actually did not feel anything at all. The unknown was the most terrifying. Suddenly biting the tip of his tongue, Fury roared angrily. There was a loud rumble of thunder, and behind him, a shadow that looked exactly like the purple thunder sky dragon appeared. This could be said to be a thunder totem that Fury had created himself. The purple thunder sky dragon stared at the gloomy black flame on the ground. It suddenly opened its mouth, and a huge bolt of bluish-purple lightning broke through the air, directly blasting towards the black flame. This was already the limit of what Fury could do. Not only did he have to control the powerful seven dragons' heaven-shaking art, but he also had to block Jidong's strange attack. At this time, the power of the seven crowns had completely exploded. It was also at this time that Fury felt that something was wrong. With his strength, when he controlled the seven dragons to attack again, he did not have much energy left. How could Jidong still be able to attack so calmly after releasing the four dragons and four snakes, and even use a sure kill skill? There was only one answer. The four dragons and four snakes in the air, Jidong did not control them at all. They were just purely releasing energy. The reality proved Fury's conjecture. In the instant that his lightning came into contact with the black flame, in midair, Jidong's four dragons and four snakes had already collided with the seven dragons' heaven-shaking art. Almost instantly, the four dragons and four snakes were instantly turned into ashes in the rumbling thunder, and the seven lightning dragons only dimmed a little. Not only did Jidong not control the four dragons and four snakes, but he also used all the magic that the four dragons and four snakes possessed to increase their size. The attack power could be said to be negligible. He only had one purpose, and that was to scare Fury, make him desperately resist, and buy enough time for himself. Fury had no time to pay attention to the changes in the air, because the strange scene in front of him made his heart, that was filled with strong confidence, suddenly turn cold. Although the lightning that the purple thunder heavenly dragon totem spat out was not considered a sure kill skill, it was enough to be called a sure kill skill. With the power of Fury's seven crowns, in theory, it was enough to compete with the sure kill skill of a four crowns devil. However, when the lightning and the black flame collided, the result was completely out of Fury's expectations. The bluish-purple lightning instantly turned black, and the terrifying explosive power that should have disappeared in a flash actually turned into a lightning form in midair. The form of a black lightning. The dark black flame on the ground did not disappear, but disappeared in a flash, and the lightning in midair seemed to melt and disappear. Jidong's body directly collided with it, and did not stop at all. Fury finally realized the danger. He focused his mind and used all his strength to control the seven dragons in the air to defend. However, from air to the ground, there was still a distance, and, at certain times, distance was enough to determine the direction of the battle. The dark black flame could not be dodged at all, and the moment the lightning melted, Fury could not use the next skill. The black light flashed, and there was no sign of an explosion, but Fury's entire body was completely frozen in place, motionless. Thunder Emperor Fury, the Thunder Emperor whose entire body was filled with terrifying lightning. At this time, the lightning on his body had completely disappeared, and what was left was only black, an extremely gloomy black. If he had to describe his current appearance, then he would be a black ice sculpture, and his entire body had been sealed in ice. Only the two honorable rankers, Yin Xiaoyang and Yin Xiaorong, could clearly feel that Fury's life force was being frantically extracted by the black ice, and Fury himself was mobilizing his mana at all costs, trying to break through this layer of black, but he was unable to do so. The seven dragons in midair changed their direction, and flew straight towards Fury. At this time, Jidong stopped 5 meters in front of Fury and raised his right hand to his chest. A cluster of golden-red flames instantly rose, and the sun-fire formation bloomed calmly. His mana was no longer enough to support him to transform into the Flame Tyrant, but his remaining mana was still enough for him to use a skill. The sky was bright, and the sun shone on the earth. At the same time, a sun-like brilliance rose behind Jidong, and was the exact opposite of the dark moon from before. This golden sun was filled with direct, ruthless, and crazy heat. Forbidden 100,000 brilliant sun cone. Yes, there was no doubt that this was the first ultimate skill that Jidong had. It was a powerful ultimate skill that only belonged to the Flame Tyrant, and it was the complete opposite of the yin and yang attributes of Forbidden 100,000 and Ghostly Flame Ice. Without the assistance of the Flame Tyrant body, there was no doubt that Jidong could not fully unleash the full power of this ultimate skill, but the Thunder Emperor had been completely sealed in the Ghostly Flame Ice. Even Jidong himself had never tried the effect of the combination skill produced by the ultimate Yin Fire ultimate skill and the ultimate Yang Fire ultimate skill. Boom! The violent roar set off an unparalleled wave of air, and the tide of the sea was stirred up by dozens of meters. A figure flew out like a cannonball, and this time he flew for hundreds of meters before falling heavily to the ground. Zhaorong, Yin Xiaoyang shouted in a low voice. Without his reminder, Yin Zhaorong had already flashed out. His whole body seemed to be sliding on the ground, and he turned a blind eye to the huge shock wave produced by the explosion. In the blink of an eye, he had already arrived at the center of the explosion, and Zhu Yin also flew out. His target was the figure that fell 100 meters away. Fury stood at the center of the explosion, gasping for breath. Although the black ice crystal that sealed him had disappeared, his face was still covered in black gas at this time. From time to time, there would be unstable lightning circling around his body, and the lightning had actually turned black. Yin Zhaorong put one hand on Fury's shoulder, and circles of black halos were immediately extracted from Fury's body and integrated into Yin Zhaorong's body. Yin Zhaorong actually shivered, and could not help but say in surprise, "What a pure ultimate Yin Fire." With her identity as a primordial unity of the Fuhua series, she actually felt cold when absorbing the remaining magic of Jidong's Dark Flame Devil King's ultimate skill. It could be seen how powerful the magic of this attack was. At this time, Yin Zhaorong finally understood why even with the strength of Fury's 7 crowns, he could not break the shackles of that ultimate skill. Previously, at the last moment of the collision, Jidong did not use the brilliant sun all to attack Fury. Instead, he bombarded the air close to his body. The Sky Scarf 7 dragons returned to help, and the huge shock wave produced by the explosion on Fury's body sent Jidong flying. The ice of ghostly flame on the surface of Fury's body was finally dissolved. Yin Zhaorong arrived in time to help him extract the remaining ultimate Yin Fire, so as to avoid any future trouble. It should be known that the 7 dragons' return explosion had already caused serious injuries to Fury, and Jidong's magic was exhausted. This battle actually ended with both sides suffering. Chapter 133. With Yin Zhaorong's help, Fury heaved a sigh of relief, and his chest slowly returned to normal. However, the shock in his eyes could not be erased. He stared 100 meters away and said anxiously, "Master's wife, quickly go and see little junior brother." I couldn't hold back for a moment, and I'm afraid I've hurt him. Yin Zhaorong chuckled and said, "Don't worry about your junior brother. He will be fine." She clearly saw that Fury's attack with the power of 7 dragons was not aimed at Jidong. Jidong was only sent flying by the aftermath. With the abnormal defense of Jidong's vermilion bird transformation and winged serpent transformation, how could he be injured so easily? Yin Zhaorong couldn't be more satisfied with these 2 disciples. When she was young, she was also an amazing genius, but to reach Fury's current cultivation, she had to wait until she was 40 years old. Fury's strength was needless to say. He was the first seat in the history of the Yin Yang school, and Jidong was an absolute surprise. Although she and Yin Xiaoyang both knew that Ji Dong's talent was amazing and he was extremely hardworking, they didn't expect him to be able to compete with Fury, who was at the level of 7 crowns, in actual combat with his own strength. Even if he used some tricks, it was also a guarantee of powerful strength. If it was a devil master with 4 crowns, he might not even be able to take one move from Fury. Sure enough, on the other side, Jian had already helped Ji Dong to stand up. Although his face was a little pale and the vermilion bird transformation on his body had been retracted into his skin, Ji Dong obviously still had the ability to move. When the two returned to Yin Xiaoyang at the same time, they couldn't help but look at each other and smile. Ji Dong took the initiative to say, "Grandmaster, I lost. Although senior brother was attacked by my dang Helene fire, he still has the strength to fight, but my magic power has been exhausted. I will definitely lose." Fury hurriedly said, "Little junior brother, now is not the time to be modest. Your last ultimate skill didn't work on me. If I remember correctly, that was the move you used to kill the level 58 G Yeffing. If I were hit by your second move, the Yin and Yang dual attribute combination skill, even if I didn't die, I would still lose a layer of skin, let alone counterattack." Ji Dong sincerely said, "How can junior brother not know that senior brother let me win? If senior brother had attacked with all his strength, I wouldn't have had the chance to use such a demonic skill. Even at the last moment, if senior brother had used the power of 7 dragons to attack me first before saving himself, he would still have been able to escape, but I would have died without a burial. No matter what, I have lost this battle." Fury still wanted to say something, but Yin Xiaoyang said, "Enough." Hearing the Grandmaster's words, the two immediately quieted down. Yin Xiaoyang nodded and said, "I am very satisfied with your performance today. Whether it is the momentum in the battle, the use of magic, the coordination with the 5 elements formation, the calculation in the battle, and the precise control of magic, you have reached the limit of what you can achieve. Even if you are not facing Fury, but a real 7-crown magician, you would still be able to perish together with your opponent if he was careless, because you're only a 4-crown magician. Even I and Zhao Rong have underestimated your combat ability." Ji Dong didn't say anything, but he had indeed given it his all in today's battle. He had been preparing for it since a few days ago when he confirmed that this battle was going to take place. He had mastered all the skills he could use, just how many skills he could use, and what effect each skill would have. This was a competition, and he was not allowed to use any mana replenishing potions or crystal cores. He had squeezed out every bit of his strength, and the final result was not much different from what he had expected. Yin Xiaoyang's gaze turned to Fury and said, "Contrary to Ji Dong, I am very dissatisfied with your performance today." Fury's face froze and respectfully listened to Yin Xiaoyang's teachings. "I heard that you have the nickname of Thunder Emperor in the Heavenly STEM Academy, right?" Fury was a little embarrassed and said, "That's just nonsense." Yin Xiaoyang's face turned cold and said, "What nonsense? What is thunder? It is awe-inspiring righteousness. It is the majestic energy of heaven and earth. It is the great accomplishment of masculinity. It is the sublimation of fire. Look at what you did just now. As a thunder demon master, you only know how to defend passively? Without a storm of attacks, do you deserve to be called Thunder Emperor? That's right. Today you faced your junior brother, and you must have some misgivings in your heart. But have you ever thought, if today you only faced a 4-crown demon master, what would you do? Teasing your opponent like a cat catching a teacher? When you used the 7 dragons heaven shocking art, you already used your full strength. But at that time, the battle situation was already completely out of your control. With your junior brother's strength, could he control 4 dragons and 4 snakes? What was going on in your head? A lion needs to use all its strength to catch a rabbit. And you? If your junior brother's last attack had landed on your body, do you think it would be as simple as losing a layer of skin? You wouldn't even have a bone residue left. Although there was no real collision, the power of that blow was infinitely close to the primary super killing skill. Hearing Yin Xiaoyang's words, Fury's eyes could not help but produce a trace of horror. It should be known that with his 7-crown strength, he had only just touched the surface of the super killing skill. If he wanted to use the super killing skill in the real sense, he must have the strength of a 9 crown level to be able to use the super killing skill alone. Even so, each supreme expert generally had only one super killing skill. Continuous improvement and improvement of the power of the super killing skill was what they pursued at that level. Jidong was only 4 crowns, not 5 crowns, but he was already close to the primary super killing skill. Even if Fury was more confident in himself, he would never think that his body could withstand it. Moreover, when he was hit by the Dark Flame Devil's killing skill, his whole body had a very special feeling, as if his vitality was burning on its own. No matter how hard he struggled, the magic in his body was completely restricted, unable to move. Although he did not understand the mystery, but at this time he could also imagine the power of this killing skill, even more terrifying than the direct attack of the Sun Cone. Grandmaster, I was wrong. Fury bowed his head in shame. Yin Xiaoyang's face was always so calm, lightly said, "It is the greatest virtue to know one's mistake and correct it. This battle, consider a draw between the two of you. If you want to bring your junior brother to the Saint Evil battlefield, you must bring him back. Your character is too straightforward. Discuss things with your junior brother. Don't pay attention to the people of the Heavenly STEM Academy. Just take it as an experience." Jidong was pleasantly surprised. "Grandmaster, you agree to let me go to the Saint Evil battlefield?" Yin Xiaoyang lightly said, "Jidong, you are very talented in actual combat. In this aspect, you're even better than your senior brother, but remember, in actual combat, you're not allowed to make mistakes. A momentary mistake will lead to the loss of the whole game. The price is not only your own life, but also the life of your companions. The saying of the Heavenly STEM Saints has a long history. You can contact them more, but don't be too concerned. Only yourself is the most worthy to rely on, no matter when. You must increase your strength as the foundation, but let you increase your combat experience, under the condition of ensuring your own safety to obtain some precious materials." "Yes, Grandmaster." Although Yin Xiaoyang's tone was always indifferent, but Jidong could clearly feel his concern for him. Yin Xiaoyang said, "There are still more than 3 months before the Saint Evil passage opens. Zhuyin, in these days, you have to help Fury perfect his equipment, make a set of suitable magic equipment for Jidong, and increase his battle strength." Zhu Yin chuckled. "Master, forging isn't a problem, but I don't have any high-grade materials here anymore. Do you think we should?" Yin Xiaoyang lightly looked at him. "You dare to take advantage of me. Take it." As he spoke, a ring flew from his hand and landed in Zhu Yan's hand. "The materials inside are enough for you to use. Although they're not the best, they are still rare materials. Don't be stingy. Use them as much as possible on these 2 children." Zhu Yan was overjoyed, took the ring, and said, "Master, don't worry. I will make the best use of it. Even if you want me to waste it, I won't give it up." "Fury, brother, come with me." Jidong and Fury looked at each other, smiled, and hurriedly followed Zhu Yan. Zhu Yan's forging required the assistance of Jidong's ultimate dual fire, so that he could forge magic weapons faster and better. When they arrived at the place where Zhu Yan and Fury lived, Zhu Yan went to busy himself, while Jidong and Fury sat in front of the door to rest. Fury was injured, while Jidong was overdrawn with magic. Both of them were not feeling well. "Junior brother, your magic skill is really powerful. Can you tell me, what is the effect of your ultimate skill? I just feel like I've fallen into an ice cellar. I feel myself getting weaker and weaker. I can't seem to break free no matter how hard I struggle." Jidong chuckled and said, "In terms of attack power, the ultimate skill Ice of Flames is not as good as the Brilliant Sun All, but it has an extremely special characteristic. As an ultimate skill, it is not used to attack, but to erode and devour. After being hit, unless the ultimate fire in the Ice of Flames completely invades the opponent's body, the opponent will not be able to move, and the skill cannot be interrupted from the inside. They must blast it away from the outside like you, senior brother, or not be hit at all. It can be said that once hit by this skill, it will be very difficult to fight back. The process of the ultimate fire fusing with the opponent will take at least 10 seconds, and even if the opponent regains the ability to move after the fusion, With such a huge amount of ultimate fire in the body, how much combat power will be left? Moreover, 10 seconds is enough for me to do a lot of things. Fury said with lingering fear. The effect of this skill of yours is too overbearing. It's almost like a death sentence. Ji Dong said, actually, senior brother, because this is the first time you have encountered it, you only felt its perverse power after being hit. But in reality, against this skill, you only need to use an ultimate skill of the same power to counteract its attack. So when I use the Ice of Flames, I will only use it when I judge that the opponent will not be able to counteract it with a skill, and I will not use it lightly. Actually, this skill is best used against opponents in the air. If there's a chance in the future, I will test it out for you. As the two brothers were talking, suddenly a blue light flashed, and the soaring serpent appeared between the two without warning. Fury, go into the house first. I have something to say to little Dong Dong. The soaring serpent said with a serious look in its eyes. Fury was stunned for a moment, but still nodded. Fury had just walked into the house when the soaring serpent's body had already emitted a blue light, enveloping itself and Ji Dong's body, isolating them from the outside world. Little Dong Dong, tell me the truth. Did the skill you used inherit it from the two sovereigns of the core world? Ji Dong was startled, but he had no intention of hiding it from the soaring serpent. In this past year, the soaring serpent had given him even more pointers than Yin Zhaoyang, especially the soaring serpent transformation. In today's battle, Ji Dong had fully understood that the effects of the soaring serpent transformation were not inferior to the vermilion bird transformation. After several violent collisions, he was actually not injured in the slightest. Although he had not been directly hit by Fury's skill, the level of explosion from his battle with Fury was still extremely terrifying. If the vermilion bird transformation was said to be an external defense, then the soaring serpent transformation was the internal cornerstone. In the process of releasing the soaring serpent transformation, Ji Dong could clearly feel that his own body had become extremely perverse. Even so, the soaring serpent had told him that his vermilion bird transformation and soaring serpent transformation had not been truly activated. When he could truly activate these two great skills, his defensive power would be comparable to that of a divine beast. Yes, Ji Dong gave an affirmative answer. The soaring serpent's eyes flickered with uncertainty as he said, "Then, does that mean that you should be acquainted with Her Royal Highness, the Flaming Bar's Empress?" His voice sounded a little urgent, and even carried a hint of longing. Ji Dong's heart skipped a beat, and he said, "I'm sorry, Senior Soaring Serpent. I cannot answer your question." He had promised the Flaming Bar that he would not tell anyone about the matter between him and her. Even if the Soaring Serpent had already guessed it, he would still not reveal it. He had always been a person who took promises very seriously, and this was even more so a promise to the Flaming Bar. The Soaring Serpent said seriously, "Little Dong Dong, this is very important to me. I will not force you, but if you really know her, please help me convey that in this world, she is the only one who can change my infertility. I am willing to pay any price in exchange for one of her natal red lotus seeds." Chapter 134. No. Hearing the Soaring Serpent's words, Ji Dong replied almost immediately. The image of Lai Yan's agony, when she had plucked out the lotus seed, surfaced in his mind. How could he bear to let her go through it again? Even if Lai Yan herself didn't agree to it, Ji Dong was unwilling to see her suffer the same pain again. However, as soon as he said those two words, an apologetic look appeared in Ji Dong's eyes. "I'm sorry, Senior Soaring Serpent. I really can't help you with this. Is there no other way? Even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a pot of boiling oil, I'm willing to do it for you. However, I really can't help you with this." Towards the Soaring Serpent, Ji Dong's feelings came from the bottom of his heart. At this moment, his feelings were extremely conflicted. He could help the Soaring Serpent, but he was unwilling to see the Flaming Bar suffer. This kind of feeling made his heart ache. The Soaring Serpent's eyes were filled with disappointment. "Little Dong Dong, it looks like you really do know the Empress of the Flaming Bar. No wonder you have such a unique talent. I'm only begging you to pass on the message. Can't you do that?" Ji Dong fell silent, his heart struggling. He could see how much the soaring serpent desired it, but the flaming bar's agony was still vivid in his mind. On one side was his mentor and helpful friend. On the other side was his spiritual sustenance. He really did not know how to choose. Looking into the soaring serpent's eyes, he could not bring himself to reject it again. However, he knew that if he were to ask the flaming bar might actually agree. The natal red lotus. Just these 4 words alone showed how important it was to the flaming bar. It could be said that it was the flaming bar's body. One could imagine the loss of a lotus seed. Just at this moment, Ji Dong suddenly felt a warm sensation on the left side of his chest. A faint red light rippled from his body, and a familiar aura filled the air. Soaring serpent, are you really willing to give up everything in exchange? The flaming bar's dignified voice rang out. Even the soaring serpent of the heavenly stem divine beast showed some respect when it sensed her presence. However, it was mostly excited and uneasy. Yes, I'm willing. The soaring serpent quickly replied, as if it was grasping at straws. Flaming bar. Ji Dong shouted anxiously. The flaming bar said calmly, Ji Dong, nothing will happen. I'm just making a fair exchange. Mengshi, listen up. If you want to exchange one of my lotus seeds, I have 3 conditions. Mengshi's emotions had already calmed down slightly, and he said solemnly, Please speak, Your Majesty, as long as it is within my power. The flaming bar said, Among the heavenly stem divine beasts, you are the only one that is not restricted by the contract. I want you to help me find and collect the 5 elemental divine stones. You have existed since ancient times, and no one understands the continent better than you do. I believe that this will not be a difficult task for you. I want one of each type, and the volume must not be smaller than a cubic meter. The soaring serpent was taken aback. 5 elemental divine stones? What do you want them for? Although they are good, they should not be of any use to you. The flaming bar said, You don't need to worry about what I do. Just help me find them. That is the first condition. The second condition is that you find 4 class 9 crystal crowns for me, 1 for each of the light and darkness elements. I believe that it should not be difficult to find them in your collection. The soaring serpent smiled bitterly. I have the light element, but I don't have the darkness element. You also know that I cannot enter the holy evil battlefield, and even more cannot step into the darkness 5 elements continent. The flaming bar displayed the majesty of the Empress at this moment, and said coldly, This is your problem. It has nothing to do with me. The last condition is that I want the snakeskin you have shed over the years. If I remember correctly, there should be 81 of them. If you can fulfill these 3 conditions, I will give you a lotus seed. The soaring serpent's breathing became rapid, and he said, Your Majesty, your demands are too harsh. The flaming bar said indifferently, You should understand that this is an equivalent exchange. Gather all these things and hand them over to Ji Dong, and I will naturally ask him to give you a lotus seed. Seeing the hesitation in the soaring serpent's eyes, Ji Dong understood that although the things that the flaming bar asked for were extremely precious, they were only equal in value to the lotus seed she had given him. Previously, in order to not owe the vermilion bird a favor, the flaming bar had given him a lotus seed. It was no wonder that the vermilion bird was so grateful. The soaring serpent took a deep breath and said, All right, I will try my best. The 5 elements divine stone is not difficult. I have my own collection, and I can also give you my snakeskin. Only the darkness crystal crown is a little troublesome. I am afraid that only the Yin Yang Chuyang has it. I will think of a way to exchange it with him. The flaming bar said, If it was not for the things that you have done for Ji Dong, I will not exchange with you. My lotus seed will open that door for you. Whether or not you can comprehend it will depend on yourself. You can leave now. I have something to say to Ji Dong. The matter of Ji Dong knowing me, please keep it a secret. The soaring serpent nodded, and the blue light converged, and the divine beast Ding had disappeared in the blink of an eye. Flaming bar, do you really need those things? But will losing a lotus seed affect your body? As soon as the soaring serpent left, Ji Dong couldn't wait to ask. Without the soaring serpent, the flaming bar's voice clearly became gentler. Of course I need these things. They can protect me. You don't need to ask too much. Wait for the soaring serpent to give you these things. Just call me. Zhidong nodded and said, Flaming Bar, have you finished your closed door training? The Flaming Bar said, Not yet. It will take about half a year or so. This time, when you go to the holy evil battlefield, remember two things. First, do not go too deep into the holy evil island. Second, be separated from your companions. Don't think too much about the heavenly stem holy disciples. And don't go looking for the heavenly stem holy armor. Your strength is still not enough. Zhidong's eyes flickered with strong emotions. Flaming Bar, I want to see you. The Flaming Bar was silent for a moment, then softly said, When you come back from the holy evil battlefield, travel around the continent. When the time comes, we will meet again. In the holy evil battlefield, always protect yourself as the #1 priority. Don't try to show off. I want to continue training. The red lotus light quietly faded away. Zhidong stood there, lost for a long time. Even just hearing the Flaming Bar's voice would cause his heart to sway. The scene of the party kept replaying in his mind. He knew that his relationship with the Flaming Bar had already undergone some subtle changes, but there still wasn't any substantial progress. He hadn't seen the Flaming Bar for more than a year. The sudden sound of the Flaming Bar's voice immediately exploded in his heart. Even the excitement of going to the holy evil battlefield was washed away by this longing. Brother, come quickly. Have you recovered some of your mana? Zhu Yan's voice came from the room. Zhidong came back to his senses, forcefully suppressing the gushing longing in his heart. He forced himself to walk into the room. Although Zhu Yan and Fury lived here, in reality, Fury only had a very small room, while Zhu Yan's room was at least 10 times bigger. There were all kinds of metals scattered everywhere in the room. It was even messier than when he was in the Heavenly STEM Academy. Only the huge furnace was still the same. The blazing fire seemed to have never been extinguished. When Zhidong walked into the room, Fury was not there. He seemed to have returned to his room to rest, while Zhu Yan was dancing and laughing excitedly. He said, this is great. Teacher is really generous this time. With so many high-grade materials, it's enough to refine a top-notch mana weapon. Brother, you're here. Hurry up and recover your mana. It'll be a waste if I don't refine the materials Master gave me. It'll be a waste if I don't refine them with the ultimate dual flames. I've already made most of Fury's equipment over the years, mainly you. Unfortunately, you still don't have a mount. Don't be stingy with the crystal cores. Use them to recover your mana, and I'll discuss with you what equipment to forge for you. Zhidong took out 2 grade 3 crystal cores, and with the help of the crystal cores, he released the yin and yang dual flames to condense the array, quickly recovering his mana. Zhu Yan pondered as he asked, Brother, do you need a weapon? Zhidong shook his head and said, I don't think so. I've never used a weapon before. My hand on my weapons. Zhu Yan nodded and said, That's true, but it's only temporary that you don't need a weapon. When you have a mount in the future, you'll still need a weapon. Think about it. When your senior brother was riding that purple Thunderheaven dragon, if he didn't have a long weapon, how much of his demonic skill could he display? How would he be able to coordinate with his own mount? You already have the twin radiance of the sun and moon, so it's enough for now. This time, I plan to use these 3 months to forge a set of mana armor for you, matching it with your vermilion bird transformation so that it won't affect your flight. This way, with the external armor and your vermilion bird inner armor, your defense will be terrifying. You won't have to be afraid, even if you face a 7-crown demon master. Of course, you won't meet a 7-crown demon master in the holy evil battlefield. Zhidong asked doubtfully why. Zhu Yan said, Have you forgotten? According to the agreement of the 5 Elements continent, only demon masters under the age of 50 can enter the holy evil battlefield. Under the age of 50, someone as abnormal as your senior brother is absolutely rare. The holy evil battlefield is filled with all kinds of mysterious situations. For you, the strongest opponents are the demon beasts, not the demon masters of the 5 Elements continent. Zhidong said, Big brother, I actually don't understand. In the holy evil battlefield, what is considered a victory? Zhu Yan said, Now that you're about to go, you're really calm. Young people like you who put all their attention on cultivation are really rare. Every time the holy evil battlefield opens, the young demon masters from both sides enter the holy evil battlefield. Then the passage will close by itself. Both sides will enter the huge demonic formation of the holy evil island at the same time. Inside the formation, the demon masters from both sides will be randomly sent to any location in the first circle of the holy evil island. Oh, right, the holy evil island is divided into 18 circles. Each circle is called the devil's 18 circles. The deeper you go, the more powerful the demon beasts will be. Legend has it that there is a huge secret in the center of the holy evil island, but no one knows what this secret space is. Because entering the demonic formation will be randomly sent, so everyone is likely to meet a young master from another continent. You'll have to face both demon beasts and enemies. In the 49 days, you must obtain at least 1 crystal crown and 10 crystal nuclei of the opposite attribute in order to get out of the demonic formation. In order to obtain the crystal crown, you must kill the person from the other continent. At the end of the 4th day, both sides will gather their crystal crown. The celestial centipede of the holy evil island will appear by itself. The celestial centipede will tilt towards the side with the most crystal crowns. At this time, a special passage will appear, and the winner will not be attacked by the demon beasts on the holy evil island. This is the only chance to break the defense of the other side. Ji Dong doubtfully asked, "For so many years, no one has been able to break the defense of the other side, right?" Zhu Yin chuckled and said, "Whether or not they can break the defense is one thing, but at least it's better than a large number of demon masters being killed by the demon beasts on the island. Moreover, the direction of the celestial centipede also represents the strength of the younger generation of both sides. After the last few battles in the holy evil battlefield, the winning side has rarely attacked the other side. After all, this disadvantage is too great. However, both sides are still pursuing victory in order to suppress the other side with momentum. Therefore, the battle between the holy evil battlefield and the holy evil battlefield is more like a battle between the two continents. Without absolute certainty, no one will try to break the defense of the other side. Don't you think that the current peaceful situation is very good? I always thought that the battle between the holy evil battlefield and the holy evil battlefield is an opportunity for you young people. Good things can appear at any time in the holy evil battlefield. Crystal nuclei and corpses of high-level demon beasts are all rare treasures. Brother, after you go in this time, don't forget to bring them out." Hearing Zhu Yan's relaxed tone, Ji Dong finally had a comprehensive understanding of the battle between the holy evil battlefield and the holy evil battlefield. Zhu Yan said, "All right, let's not talk about this anymore. Brother, let me help you measure your body first. You're 16 this year, and your figure has not completely taken shape. This is a troublesome matter. I have to consider the problem of how your body will change in the future. After all, this external oracle bone cannot be compared to the vermilion bird armor that is fused with your skin. Fortunately, the materials that Master gave me this time include the extremely precious metal crystal crown. Although it's only at the 5th grade, it's enough. Using the metal crystal crown to make an extension fluid, coupled with my unique folding casting method, no matter how your body changes in the future, this magic power armor will stick to your body." As he spoke, Zhu Yin took out a long tape measure and began to measure Ji Dong's body. Chapter 135. Crafting a magical weapon was definitely an extremely intricate study. Ji Dong believed that he had already reached the pinnacle of bartending, but when he saw Zhu Yin crafting a magical weapon for the first time, he was still so shocked that he could not close his mouth. He was deeply captivated by the skill. There were 5 main steps to forging a magical weapon. The first step was naturally the preparation of the materials. If one wanted to forge an outstanding magical weapon, the materials could be said to be crucial. The more mana contained in the materials, the better the quality of the materials, and the greater the beneficial effect on the magical weapon during the forging. The 2 main casting materials were metals and magical beast cores. Of course, if there was a crystal crown, the effect would be even better, especially for an extreme magic magician like Ji Dong. Whether it was the crystal crown of the Darkness continent or the crystal crown of the Radiance continent, he could use them both. The second step of casting magic weapons was the fusion of materials. Zhu Yin had told Jidong that one of the main reasons why the number of magic weapon casters on the continent was extremely small was because of the fusion of materials. Only fire magicians could rely on the property of fire-restraining metal to carry out metal fusion. An excellent magic weapon could not be forged with a single type of metal. Although Zhu Yin used the most primitive method of forging magic weapons by hand, Jidong was extremely surprised to find that all the magic weapons he forged were alloys. Before he saw it with his own eyes, he would never believe that someone could complete alloy casting by hand. But Zhu Yin had done it. The higher the grade of the metal, the higher the melting point. To be able to melt most of the metal, one had to be at least a 6-crown Heaven Knight level fire element magic master. Just this point alone limited this profession. How many magic masters were there on the continent? And how many experts of this level could endure the loneliness to research and forge magic weapons? Yin Xiaorong had once told Jidong that in terms of cultivation talent, Zhu Yin was actually above Zhu Rong. It was because he had spent all his energy on the research of magic weapons that he had not made any progress after reaching the 7-crown level. It could be said that Zhu Yin had given up his future as a magician and devoted himself to the research of magic weapons. There were too few magicians above the Heaven Knight level who were willing to sacrifice like him and had such talent. Therefore, in the entire Radiance continent, true top-level magic weapon forging masters were as rare as phoenix feathers and Shielan horns. After completing the fusion of materials, it was the third step of forging magic weapons, the forging of the main body of the weapon. According to the different requirements of attack and defense, the forged metal would be forged into various shapes. Then came the fourth step, the refinement of the details of the magic weapon. Even the most ordinary magic weapon would need to be embedded with a magical beast core. The polishing and adjustment of the magic weapon would all be completed in the fourth step. The last step was the branding of the magic weapons formation. Since the ancient times until now, most of the formations had already disappeared. Many magic weapons would be completed at the fourth step. However, as the disciple of the sovereign, Zhu Yin still grasped some simple formations. Thus, embedding the formations in the magic weapon, as well as experimenting and adjusting it as a whole, would become the last step of his forging, as well as the final perfection. Any magic weapon forged by Zhu Yin would definitely be considered a fine product after going through these 5 steps. This was also the reason why he had an extremely high status in the Heavenly STEM Academy. If not for the siblings Yin Xiaoyang and Yin Xiaorong, it would not have been easy to take him away. Normally, Zhu Yin had to strive for perfection in his forging, let alone now that he was forging for Jidong. After measuring his body, Zhu Yin began to design without eating or sleeping. Jidong also stayed by his side to cultivate mana. It took Zhu Yin 3 whole days to complete the design of the entire set of magic armor, and only started after several modifications. The first step of forging was naturally not a problem to choose the materials. Yin Xiaoyang had given Zhu Yin enough materials for him to squander. After 7 days, Zhu Yin chose the final metal synthesis plan after many experiments and compounding. Only then did he begin to call Jidong to help him forge. The fire in the quaint casting furnace was blazing, and the blazing flame was burning 36 kinds of rare metals, each with its own characteristics. Zhu Yin put them into the casting furnace one by one in a certain order and quantity ratio. He put one hand on the metal, and the other hand constantly urged his powerful third fire magic to inject into it, and from time to time added some crystal nuclei to enhance the intensity of the burning and to serve as a catalyst for metal fusion. Forging magic weapons was extremely costly, which was another reason why there were so few magic weapon forgers. Without a large amount of rare materials to squander, it was impossible to become an excellent magic weapon forger. Jidong, inject dual flames. Zhu Yin shouted. Jidong, who had been waiting beside him, raised both palms at the same time. The golden Bingwu primordial yang sacred fire and the black dingy underworld spiritual fire were injected at the same time. The dual flames directly turned into a golden and black vortex that fell into the furnace. Suddenly, the originally fiery red furnace suddenly dimmed. In the next moment, the entire furnace had been completely replaced by the two-color vortex, and a series of surging explosions continuously erupted from the metal in the furnace. Zhu Yan stared at the changes in the furnace and shouted again, "Increase the input." Ji Dong said in a deep voice, "Brother, if the extreme flames are too strong, will they destroy your furnace?" Zhu Yan said, "It's fine. The inner part of my furnace is made from the powder of the five elements divine stone and forged with ancient divine iron. It is a divine weapon in the world of forging called the five elements forging divine furnace. Even if Master used all his mana, it would be impossible to destroy it just by burning it." Divine stone of five elements? Jidong's heart skipped a beat when he heard those words. He could still clearly remember that the flaming bar had requested for the soaring serpent to have these items. As he increased the output of the dual flames, he could not help but ask, "Brother, just what is the divine stone of five elements?" Zhu Yan's attention was completely focused on the 36 metals in the furnace. He subconsciously answered, "The divine stone of five elements are 10 types of gemstones that contain extreme yin and yang magic. They contain tremendous amounts of magic and are extremely pure, making them extremely rare. They are supreme-grade materials for forging magical weapons. I've read in ancient texts that in ancient times, if one wanted to create a magical skill scroll above the level of a sure-kill technique, the scroll itself had to be mixed with the powder of at least one type of divine stone of five elements." Hearing Zhu Yan's words, Ji Dong could not help but have a flash of inspiration. Yao Qianshu had once told him that with the divine stone of five elements, he would be able to create a magical skill scroll. However, he had always been engrossed in cultivation and did not have the time to study it. How could the divine stone of five elements be used on a scroll? What did the scroll itself look like? He knew nothing about that. Zhu Yan's words had undoubtedly opened a door to the creation of magical skill scrolls. Forging magical weapons was not something that he could learn in a short period of time. However, he had the unique ability of the divine stone of five elements. If he could become a magical skill scroll forger, not only would he be a unique existence on the continent, his strength would also increase greatly. Thinking of that, Ji Dong already had a rough idea in his mind. Zhu Yan could not possibly know how to create a magical skill scroll, but the soaring serpent that had lived since ancient times would know something. If it still did not work, he could still ask the flaming bar, "Brother, strengthen the fire a little more. The metals are about to melt." Zhu Yan's voice temporarily interrupted Ji Dong's thoughts. As expected, among the 36 metals that Zhu Yan had placed in a certain order and position, the few that were the hardest to melt had already begun to liquefy. All 36 metals were already showing signs of fusing. They basically took up half of the space in the five elements divine furnace. However, the 36 metals produced different colors, giving off a messy feeling. Zhu Yan's expression turned grim. He took out a metal rod made of unknown material from his storage magic artifact and inserted it into the furnace, stirring it. At the same time, Ji Dong also increased the output of his ultimate dual flames, causing the metals to melt even more thoroughly. A bag of dark seven-colored powder was thrown into the five elements divine furnace by Zhu Yan. Immediately, Ji Dong's ultimate dual flames burned even more vigorously. Soon after, Zhu Yan added more than 20 other materials. Gradually, as the 36 liquids of different colors fused together, the impurities within them were completely destroyed by the ultimate dual flames, leaving behind only the purest portion. The golden red liquid was constantly stirred within the five elements, forging godly furnace. Strangely enough, even in such a high temperature that surpassed even magma, the five elements forging godly furnace remained unmoved. A hint of the most neutral and peaceful laws of the world could be vaguely seen, completely unaffected by the heat within the furnace. Ji Dong understood that the reason why the five elements forging godly furnace could do this was definitely because the five elements divine stones had produced the effect of fusing the five elements together, complementing each other. The five elements divine stones were not something that the five demon masters could compare to, which was why such a scene had been created. Just as Jidong's mana was about to run out, Zhu Yin happily shouted, "All right, stop. Brother, hurry up and recover your mana. I'll still need your help later." Jidong did not say anything else. He walked straight to the side, activated the mana gathering array, and went to cultivate and recover his mana. Zhu Yin carefully used an item made of special material to release the fused liquid from the five elements forging godly furnace, condensing it into a huge piece of metal. He did not use any external force to cool it down. As soon as the liquid left the high temperature of the five elements forging godly furnace, it quickly completed its own fusion process, forming an extremely beautiful golden red metal with faint cloud patterns. It looked like the color of the sun. At this moment, only this piece of metal existed in Zhu Yan's eyes. He replaced it with a sledgehammer, and with a sudden strike, he picked up the rapidly cooling piece of metal and heavily landed it on the huge iron anvil beside him. At the same time, the sledgehammer in his hand hammered the surface at a storm-like speed. At this moment, it seemed that the entire East Sea coast could hear the sound of his hammer. Gradually, the huge piece of metal was hammered into an even larger rectangular piece of iron. At this moment, Zhu Yin was already drenched in sweat. It had to be known that every time he hammered, he had to inject pure fire mana to maintain the temperature of the alloy and ensure its ductility. After a little rest, Zhu Yin burned the metal piece again with a blazing third fire magic power, then folded it into 2 layers and continued to forge. For a very long period of time, Zhu Yin Yao was doing the same thing, folding, forging, folding, and forging again. Jidong was also repeating the same thing, recovering his mana and burning the alloy for Zhu Yin. When he helped Zhu Yin increase the temperature and burn the alloy, Zhu Yin could devote himself to the overlapping of the metal, greatly saving his stamina. Moreover, the metal would soften much faster under the terrifying heat of the ultimate dual flames, greatly increasing the forging speed. Zhu Yin was a 7-crown expert after all. In just 3 days, the two of them had folded the piece of metal 1,000 times. However, Zhu Yin told Jidong that this was just the beginning. As the saying goes, 100 folds would become refined, 1,000 folds would become precious, and 10,000 folds would become divine. With so many rare materials, Zhu Yin naturally would not be satisfied with 1,000 folds that he could complete himself. Jidong's ultimate dual flames only displayed its true effect at this moment. After 1,000 folds, the alloy had reached a terrifying degree of toughness, and Zhu Yan's ordinary fire could no longer soften it. All the softening work would be done by Jidong, and Zhu Yin would devote himself to forging. The folding speed had clearly slowed down. In a day, he could only fold it 100 times at most, and the further he went, the slower the speed became. In 2 whole months, he had only completed a little more than 5,000 folds. At this rate, it would be impossible for Jidong to wear this armor in the holy evil battlefield. Zhu Yin had already decided to give up. After all, folding the 5 elements 1,000 times was already a terrifying existence in itself. The alloy itself was strong to an abnormal degree, and it must be known that Fury's equipment was only a treasure that could be folded 1,000 times. Zhu Yin told Jidong that he could forge an armor for him first, and then smelt it again after the Holy Tooth battle. However, the effect of the second forging would definitely be a little worse. At this moment, it was Jidong who became stubborn. He expressed to Zhu Yin that he would rather not wear the armor on the battlefield than waste those materials. He would definitely fold it 10,000 times and forge it into a divine item. Zhu Yin naturally agreed with Jidong's method. It must be known that if he were to forge it alone, it would take him at least 30 years to complete 10,000 folds and use his own mana to slowly soften the metal after each fold. While the current speed was not fast, it was not much different from 30 years. Zhu Yin told Jidong with great certainty that if the armor was forged successfully, it would not become a god artifact, but it would be extremely close to it. It could even be called a substandard god artifact. Chapter 136. There was only a month and a half left before the demonic saint passage opened, and Jidong's mana armor was still a long way from completion. However, in the past 2 months, because Jidong had been repeating the process of restoring his mana and releasing the ultimate dual flames every day, his mana had increased, and he had finally reached level 48. It must be known that the speed at which he could increase his mana by 1 level was not as fast as before. It was impossible for him to break through to the quintuple champion level before entering the righteous and demonic battlefield. Just as Zhu Yan was in a dilemma, unsure if he should first complete the armor for Jidong or continue to increase the quality of the armor, Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong came together to check on the progress of the forging. After listening to Zhu Yan's complaints, the two Supremes immediately decided to replace Jidong's position and personally help Zhu Yan complete the remaining number of times the armor could be folded. Little Dong Dong, help me pass this to Her Majesty the Empress. Although his eyes looked a little tired, Jidong could still see the excitement in his eyes. It was obvious that the soaring serpent very much wanted a lotus seed from the flaming bar. Jidong sighed in his heart. This was the choice of the flaming bar. Although he was unwilling, he had no other choice. He could only pray in his heart, hoping that the things that the soaring serpent gave the flaming bar would be able to make up for the flaming bar's pain, and it would be best if it was beneficial to her. The soaring serpent could not wait to release his mana to isolate himself from the outside world. With anxiety, nervousness, and unease, Jidong called out to the flaming bar. The familiar red lotus unfurled, and a golden lotus seed appeared on one of its petals. This was not the first time that Jidong had seen this lotus seed appear, and he could not help but feel a pain in his heart. Soaring serpent, you and I are even. Remember, do not tell anyone about my relationship with Jidong. The voice of the flaming bar did not sound any different from before. It was still as elegant and pleasant as ever, like the music of the heavens rippling in the air. The soaring serpent picked up the lotus seed, its small eyes shining brightly. Your Majesty, please do not worry. Little Dong Dong is also my friend. If I have any breakthroughs in the future, it will all be thanks to Your Majesty. I thank you here. If Your Majesty has any requests in the future, I will agree. The voice of the flaming bar faintly sounded. If you really want a breakthrough, then go find the vermilion bird. Only by being with it will you have a chance. The soaring serpent was taken aback, and its eyes changed slightly. Is there really no other way? The flaming bar calmly replied. This is the only way, and the only shortcut I know of. The yin and yang heavenly stem divine beasts of the same element will repel each other. Just like the two sovereigns of the core world, there can only be one result when they fight, and that is mutual destruction. The flame tyrant and the dark flame devil king also lost their lives, and their brands fused together in agitation within their bodies. That is all I can say. The decision is up to you. A hint of sincere respect appeared in the soaring serpent's eyes. Thank you, Your Majesty. I will definitely consider your words seriously. Little Dong Dong, I have to leave now. After this farewell, I do not know if we will ever meet again. I will now bid farewell to Zhaorong. Getting to know each other can be considered fate. It is also because of your help that I was able to obtain the help of Your Majesty. I have a book that I have treasured for a long time to give to you. You possess the 5 elements formation. It should be of some help to you. As she spoke, a blue light flashed, and an ancient-looking book made entirely out of leather landed in Jidong's palm. The blue light disappeared, and the soaring serpent disappeared in a flash. The flaming bar smiled. This gift from the soaring serpent is also very precious. Jidong, the battle between the saint and demonic saints is imminent. Don't forget what I said to you. I have to continue cultivating. The flaming bar's aura disappeared along with her voice. Jidong could not help but feel a sense of loss in his heart once again. However, his gaze was quickly attracted by the book in his hand that was completely made out of leather. The words on the book were not recognizable to Jidong. They were a type of ancient script that looked curvy and strange. On the cover of the book, there were 4 large words. The entire book was made out of special brownish-yellow leather. Although he did not know how many years had passed, it did not seem to have been damaged at all. It was as if it had been through the passage of time. The strangest thing was that from this book, Ji-dong could actually feel a faint fluctuation of mana. It was different from any kind of attribute, but it was an extremely well-rounded feeling of mana, as if it possessed all 5 elements of yin and yang. Flipping to the first page, Ji-dong's heart immediately trembled. He had actually seen the drawing on the first page before. 10 elemental totems formed a circle, looking extremely lifelike. It was actually exactly the same as the relief sculpture on the stone door that he and Yao Qianshu had almost destroyed in the underground palace. Even the aura was very similar, just much weaker. Beside the totems, there were a large number of ancient text annotations, but he did not know what was written. The next 10 pages each had a type of totem, with a large number of small annotations beside it. He could not understand what was written, but looking at the lifelike totems, Ji-dong could vaguely feel that these words should be related to totems or his own 5 elemental formation. The last 3 pages were also accompanied by some drawings. These drawings seemed to be the production methods of a few items and seemed to be made out of different kinds of paper. Suddenly, a thought flashed through Ji-dong's mind. Could it be that these papers were used to create magic skill scrolls? The Soaring Serpent had said before that this book was related to his 5 elemental formation. If the last 3 pages were the production methods of the magic skill scrolls, then the Soaring Serpent's words would be easy to understand. However, he did not know what was written at the front. Only by understanding the contents and combining it with his own 5 elemental formation would he be able to truly understand the profound mysteries within. Now was not the time to be thinking about this. He was about to head to the saint and evil battlefield, so he would think about it after the battle of the saint and evil ended. Although the ancient text was extremely difficult to distinguish, he believed that with the vast knowledge of his grandmaster, grandmaster's wife, and even the vast knowledge of the flaming bar, they would definitely be able to translate it for him. Returning to the wooden hut by the seaside, Ji-dong was just about to find fury to continue sparring with his magic skill when suddenly, from Zhu Yan's residence not too far away, an intense mana ripple could be felt. Immediately after, he saw an intense gold and black halo rising into the sky like a cloud of smoke. The distorted halo contained an extremely powerful mana ripple, as if it was filled with a spiritual calling. Ji-dong, come quickly. Zhu Yan's voice was filled with urgency as he called out Ji-dong's name. Ji-dong did not dare to tarry. He hurriedly leaped up and rushed to the wooden hut. The 10,000 layers of folding had already been completed a dozen days ago, but the siblings still remained at Zhu Yan's residence to assist him in the final few steps of the forging. The metal that had been folded 10,000 times was no longer something that Zhu Yan could forge with his own ability. He needed the assistance of the ultimate dual flames to temporarily soften it. As soon as he entered the wooden hut, the first thing that Ji-dong felt was a wave of heat assaulting his face. Within the wooden hut, Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong were slowly withdrawing their ultimate dual flames. Zhu Yan stood there drenched in sweat, his expression as ugly as a sheet of paper. On the ground between the 3 of them was a complete set of armor that formed a conical shape, and its original appearance could not be seen clearly. Ji-dong did not ask what kind of armor Zhu Yan would forge for him. Now, his gaze was immediately attracted by the armor before him as soon as he entered. Because it was fused together, he could only see a conical object and not its appearance. What attracted Ji-dong's attention was the material of the armor itself. The dark red body did not seem conspicuous, and Ji-dong could faintly see a layer of extremely fine cloud patterns on the dark red metal with his powerful eyesight. The cloud patterns exuded a firm, tough, domineering, and sonorous aura, filled with a strong sense of superiority. The most peculiar thing was that the armor was constantly trembling, and the golden and black smoke that Ji-dong saw earlier was actually seeping out from its body. As soon as Zhu Yan saw Ji-dong, he did not say a word and rushed forward, immediately pulling her to the armor. Quick, there's only one last step left. It needs to be soaked in your blood. I didn't think that I would actually create a magical weapon that has spirituality and needs to recognize its master. This is definitely the best work I've made in my life." Even though he was already very tired, his eyes were filled with fervor and excitement. 3 months. He had used a whole 3 months, and with the help of Ji-dong and 2 other sovereigns, he had finally forged this armor with spirituality. Ji-dong did not quite understand what a magical weapon with spirituality was, but in truth, the most basic requirements for a so-called divine weapon were spirituality and the ability to recognize its master. Just as Zhu Yan had judged, the armor he had forged, with the advantage of the materials, the ultimate dual flames and 10,000 folds, as well as the soaking and forging without regard for the cost, was already extremely close to a divine weapon. "Brother, hurry up and water it with your blood. Only then can it complete the process of recognizing its master. Otherwise, it will lose all its spiritual energy before it can even take shape and become an ordinary weapon." Hearing Zhu Yan's urgent voice, Ji-dong did not dare to be negligent. Toward Zhu Yan, he had a feeling of gratitude and admiration. Perhaps in the eyes of others, Zhu Yan looked like a crazy old man, but Ji-dong knew very well that Zhu Yan was just like him in his previous life, who was obsessed with bartending, wholeheartedly devoted himself to the research of magical weapon forging. He did not care about the matters of the outside world at all, which was why he had such a slovenly appearance. However, this dedication had already filled Ji-dong with a good impression. They were the same kind of people, which was why when Zhu Yan had forcibly acknowledged him as his kin, Ji-dong did not oppose it as he got to know him better. Now, he was even more grateful. In order to help him forge this armor, Zhu Yan, who was over 100 years old, had worked so hard over the past few months. Even with the support of the magical energy of the 7 crowns, he seemed even older. All of this was for him, so how could he not be moved? His hands swept past each other, and a dazzling light flashed. Ji-dong suppressed his ultimate dual fire attribute with all his strength, channeling power into his fingernails, and sliced through the veins on both hands. This time, he used a lot of strength. It must be known that he had the vermilion bird inner armor under his skin. Even if he forcibly controlled the vermilion bird inner armor to not be activated due to an attack, the toughness of his skin was far from that of an ordinary person. Under Ji-dong's deliberate control, 2 streams of blood immediately spurted out from the wounds and landed on the armor that was still burning hot. Immediately, the armor stopped trembling violently, and its body flickered with a faint light. When it was bright, it turned gold, and when it was dim, it turned black. Its aura changed, and it was the mana undulations of the ultimate dual fire. If it had been an ordinary person, even the blood of a fire-type demon master would not have been able to satisfy this armor. At this moment, it was not just going through the process of recognizing its master, but also the process of condensing its own spirituality and completing the final step of forging. Furthermore, Ji-dong's blood was filled with the aura of the 2 great ultimate fires, as well as the existence of the chaotic fire, the most fundamental power of creation in the world. The instant the blood fused into the armor immediately greedily absorbed it and did not leave a single trace behind. The trembling stopped, but the number of times the light flickered became more and more rapid, as if it was expressing its own excitement. Ji-dong forcefully channeled his own mana to prevent the wounds from healing, and blood continued to spurt out. Due to the vermilion bird transformation and the winged serpent transformation, his body was not only extremely tough, but the various functions of his body were also far superior to that of an ordinary person. As his blood flowed out, his body's hematopoietic function began to rapidly circulate. As long as he did not lose too much blood, there would not be any problems with his body. Chapter 137. Strong pulses of mana circulated in the air, carrying a faint smell of blood. Zhu Yan's fists had already turned white from clenching them so tightly that Yin Zhaoyang's gaze remained calm, but he was also paying close attention to the changes in the armor. Only Yin Zhaoyang's expression carried a hint of sorrow and disappointment. The flying serpent had already come to bid farewell to her. She obviously could not stop her companion of several decades from pursuing the existence of another realm. However, How could she so easily let go of the departure of her friend and teacher? The light of the mana armor shone more and more intensely. Gradually, the black and gold became indistinguishable, and Ji-dong's complexion began to change as his body began to weaken. At this moment, there was a sudden clang. The entire wooden hut was filled with surging mana. The powerful mana exploded, causing everyone to feel a scorching heat. However, the four people present were all experts of the fire element, so they obviously did not care about the change in temperature. Yin Jiayong waved his hand and set up a fire boundary around the wooden hut, preventing it from being destroyed like when Ji-dong broke through to the fourth crown. "Brother, that's enough!" Zhu Yin cried out in ecstasy. Ji-dong immediately withdrew the mana that was controlling his wounds, and the two wounds on his wrists began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, they had already turned into two white lines, and large amounts of milky white light seemed to be surging towards the wounds under his skin. However, no one paid any attention to the changes in Ji-dong's wounds, because the armor that had been piled together on the ground had already undergone a huge change. The shining gold and black armor had already exploded with a clang, turning into pieces that scattered through the air and hovering in front of Ji-dong. The light no longer flickered. Every part of the armor floated peacefully in the air. The armor itself was gold, but the background had turned black, as if a strong black air current was condensing. The clanging of metal constantly echoed. As he stared at it, Ji-dong could not help but feel a sense of kinship with it, as if the armor itself was a part of his body. Moreover, he had also noticed that the armor was not a full-body armor like Zhu Yin had said, but a light armor. The armor was made up of many parts, including a mask, two pauldrons, front and back breastplates, waistplate, pleated skirt, knee pads, combat boots, elbow pads, wrist pads, and gauntlets. Among these parts, only the front and back breastplates, the gauntlets, and the gauntlets were connected, while the rest only protected the most important parts of the body. What attracted Ji-dong's attention the most was the mask that floated at the top. The mask was very large. Not only could it completely cover the face, but it also protruded from all sides. Overall, it looked ferocious. A total of 10 spikes protruded from the edges of the mask. The golden mask looked a little like the sun, but the spikes were not straight. Instead, they were twisted like the body of a flying serpent. Even where the eyes were, there was a layer of dark red membrane protecting them. Among all the parts of the armor, the spiritual aura that the mask gave off was the strongest. The reason why it could attract Ji-dong's attention was not just because of that. More importantly, among all the parts of the armor, only the mask was filled with the same arrogance as Ji-dong, the arrogance that came from the fusion of Ji-dong and the two sovereigns. Two beams of light shot out from Ji-dong's eyes, staring at the eyes of the mask. At this moment, he released all his arrogance without hiding it. The intense aura of the dual flames burst out, and the arrogance of the sovereigns filled the wooden house like a towering mountain. As if they understood Ji-dong's summon, the clanging sounds of the armor stopped. In the next moment, they had already turned into beams of golden light, but with a black tail flame, they shot toward Hyoheim like lightning. Raising his arms to his sides, Ji-dong only felt his face heat up. Everything in front of him had turned into the color of blood, but it was exceptionally clear. Even the dust in the darkest corner could be seen clearly. The boiling heat bloomed on his face. He could clearly feel that the magic in his body had instantly merged with the aura contained in the mask. There was no card slot or hairband on the mask. It was so perfect that it would not fall off his face. Then, accompanied by a series of clanging sounds, the armor sets attached themselves to Ji-dong's body. With each additional set, Ji-dong felt that the magic in his body became more turbulent. When all the sets were on him, the feeling of being in perfect harmony made him feel like his whole body was filled with blazing magic waves, and he had a feeling that he wanted to attack with all his might. The speed of the yin-yang vortex's rotation increased a little on its own, and the speed at which it absorbed magic from the outside world was obviously increasing. When his magic was injected into the armor would turn black if it was injected with extreme yin fire, and the armor would turn golden if it was injected with extreme yang fire. when no magic was injected, the armor would automatically return to its inconspicuous dark red color. Although the armor covered almost all of his joints, it did not make him feel sluggish at all. Although the weight of the armor itself was not light, it felt like a piece of clothing at most. The power it brought to Ji Dong far exceeded the burden of its weight. Looking at Ji Dong's body covered in armor, Zhu Yin said, as if he was talking in a dream, "After folding it 10,000 times, I realized that these metals were not enough to make a full set of armor. In desperation, I could only design it into a light armor that only protects the most important parts of the body. Ordinary light armor needs to be connected with leather, but you don't need that at all, because you have the protection of the vermilion bird inner armor. I designed this armor to be both offensive and defensive. On the surface, it doesn't seem to have any crystal cores or crystal crowns embedded in it, but in fact, in order to complete the casting, when it was folded for the last time, I used a total of 6 grades. I crushed over 100 crystal cores into powder and used a 10th grade fire crystal core and a 10th grade fire crystal core as the core to completely brand the magic of these crystal cores into the armor. I don't know the 5 elements array, so I can only use this method to stimulate and stabilize the magic attribute of the armor. As long as you wear it, your magic recovery speed will increase by 50%. There is no need to doubt its offensive and defensive power. When you pour more than 3 crowns of magic into it, its true appearance will be completely revealed. Not only can it help you defend, it will also become your most powerful weapon." At this point, Zhu Yin paused for a moment and panted a few times before continuing. As for the mask, it was made after careful consideration. In the holy evil battlefield, not only can you face the attacks of your enemies, you can also encounter the sneak attacks of the students of the Heavenly STEM Academy. With this mask, no one will know who you are. With it, you will always be mysterious. Moreover, this mask can keep you awake at all times and protect your face. The crystal membrane on the pupil is made of a kind of cornea called night dragon. No matter what kind of light it is, you can see clearly. The only flaw is that when you wear it, you can only see red. Brother, I will gradually help you perfect this armor in the future and make it a true full-body armor. Right now, I can be sure that this armor that possesses spirituality is already a substandard god artifact. If you can complete the full-body armor and inscribe the 5 elements formation on it, it won't be impossible for it to become a true god artifact. However, this will have to be done step by step, so you must work hard to comprehend the 5 elements formation. Wearing the armor and the mask, Ji Dong's arrogance was even more perfect. The cold metal and blood-red eyes were deep and cold. Vaguely, one could smell the scent of blood from him. Ji Dong nodded and said, "Big brother, this armor was made by you, so why don't you give it a name?" Zhu Yin laughed heartily. "Good. The battle between you and Fury last time could be said to be soul-stirring, and it gave me many thoughts. When you released the extreme yang flames, you were like a ruthless monarch, and when your demonic energy was converted into the extreme yin flames, you were like a deep demon king. Coupled with your extreme yin and yang attributes, why don't we call this armor the Demon Monarch Yin Yang armor?" Demon Monarch Yin Yang armor. Ji Dong repeated Zhu Yan's words. He could clearly feel that the armor seemed to be transmitting an aura of excitement to him. Clearly, it liked this name. Tyrant, Demon King. Ji Dong didn't really care about these titles, but he had inherited the skills of the Flame Sovereign King and the Dark Flame Devil King. So the words Demon Monarch and Demon Monarch came from the 2 great monarchs. Good. We'll call it the Demon Monarch Yin Yang armor. Along with Ji Dong's affirmative answer, there was a humming sound, and the armor on his body shone brightly. Black and gold alternated for a moment. Vaguely, the cloud patterns on the various parts of the armor flowed with light. This substandard god artifact had finally been given its name. Zhu Yin smiled. His body swayed, and he slowly collapsed. Yin Zhaoyang strode to his side and grabbed his shoulder. Faint golden light flowed from his palm into Zhu Yan's body. Before Ji Dong died, he saw that Zhu Sui's eyes were tightly closed, but the smile on his face didn't diminish. Yin Zhaoyang and Hyoheim waved their hands and said, "He's just too tired. He'll be fine after some rest." The armor is forged. Go pack your things and set off with Fury. It's not the first time he's participated in the battle of Saint Evil, so he'll naturally bring you there. Yin Zhaoyang had already told him that he needed to be warned, so he didn't say anything else. Jidong bid farewell to Yin Zhaoyang and Yin Zhaorong, the two great supreme being experts, and walked out of the wooden house. He prepared to take off the Jun Mo Yin Yang armor, as he couldn't wear this armor and hurry on his journey. Just as his thoughts moved, his right wrist became slightly warm, as if it had sensed his thoughts. His entire body became light, and all the armor had already left his body, turning into streams of light that flowed into the vermilion bird bracelet that Jidong's thoughts had been stored in. Looking at the vermilion bird bracelet that was flowing with a golden red light, Jidong couldn't help but be stunned for a second. As expected of a substandard god artifact, it had really reached a telepathic connection with him. He didn't know what level a divine artifact magic weapon could reach. What a good armor. Junior brother, I'm jealous. Just as Jidong was in a daze, Fury's voice rang out. The Thunder Emperor's tall figure had already covered the sunlight and arrived before Jidong. How could Fury not have seen such a huge commotion earlier? However, he was afraid of affecting Zhu Yan's forging, so he didn't go in. Naturally, he saw Jidong taking off his armor. Fury didn't hide his envy at all. He lowered his head and moved closer to Jidong, saying, "What a pity, what a pity." Jidong found it funny and asked, "Senior brother, what's a pity?" Fury sighed. "It's a pity that our attributes are different. Otherwise, I'd definitely snatch your armor to exchange. If I'm not wrong, this light armor of yours should be the pinnacle of my Uncle Master's work. It's hard to say if it can surpass it in the future." Jidong chuckled and said, "I believe that Big Brother will definitely be able to make another breakthrough in the future. With his dedication to forging, there will be a day when a divine weapon will be born in his hands." Fury said helplessly, "I call him Uncle Master, and you call him Big Brother. This is really awkward." Jidong said, "Grandmaster told us to set off now. It should be about time." Fury nodded and said, "I was just about to look for Grandmaster as well. It's about time. We have to arrive a little earlier. Only by moving together with the Heavenly Stem Army will we be able to enter the holy demonic battlefield. We can't possibly sneak in. With the deterrence of Grandmaster and Mistress, I don't think the Heavenly Stem Academy will dare to make things difficult for us. After all, the holy demonic battle concerns the safety of the entire continent. Even if they want to play any tricks, they will have to wait until we finish the holy demonic battle and come out." Jidong nodded and said, "Then let's set off now." Fury nodded and said, "All right, I will bid farewell to Grandmaster and Mistress. Let's set off now. With the lightning, it won't take long for us to arrive." After a quarter of an hour, the Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon, which seemed to have grown a bit larger, soared into the sky and brought the two young experts with it. Astral winds blew. This time, Jidong sat behind Fury. Fury himself was completely in sync with the dragon saddle on the back of the Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon. Although he wasn't wearing any armor, sitting on the back of the Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon gave off an invisible domineering aura. Jidong was very clear that if Fury and the Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon were to fight in the battle that day, he would not be able to withstand a single blow. The Holy Demonic Island was located in the east of the East Sea. If one wanted to reach it, they would have to depart from the Holy Demonic Passage somewhere in the East Sea. Without a doubt, the entrance of the Holy Demonic Passage was the most heavily guarded place in the entire Radiant Continent. It was impossible to even get close to it. Ordinary people would not know of the existence of the Holy Demonic Passage. They would not know that there was another continent outside of this continent that could be invaded at any time. Chapter 138. The Purple Thunder was flying in the sky. It was impossible to see it from the ground. Although the East Sea was vast, Yin Qiang was responsible for guarding the Holy and Evil Passage. Naturally, he wouldn't live too far away from the Holy and Evil Passage. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to vaguely see the continent in the distance. Along with Fury's increase in strength, the Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon's mana also seemed to have increased. Although it still wasn't at the Tier 9 level, its flying speed was a lot faster. Fury sat on the back of the purple thunder heavenly dragon, his broad and tall figure completely shielding Ji-Dong's body. Even without the protection of the purple thunder heavenly dragon's mana, the astral winds wouldn't be able to hit him. Junior brother, we're almost there. I think the people from the Heavenly STEM Academy are already here. When you see them later, you don't need to say anything. I'll handle everything. Okay. Ji-Dong closed his eyes, feeling the changes in the magic elements in the sky. He was very interested in the holy evil battlefield, but what made his heart even more excited was that after the holy evil battle was over, Raging Flame would come out of seclusion, and he would be able to see her every day. Thinking of this, his heart was filled with excitement. The clouds under his feet began to hit his body. The purple thunder heavenly dragon began to descend. Ji-Dong was a little surprised so fast. Fury smiled and said, "How far do you think it can be? Look." At this moment, the purple thunder heavenly dragon passed through the clouds. Fury raised his hand and pointed down. Looking down at the sea from the sky, especially from this place, one couldn't help but feel a strong shock. It was the majesty of the world. The first thing that came into view was not the holy and evil passage or the holy and evil island, but the overwhelming dark clouds and flashing lightning in the distance. You could even see a huge tornado raging in the distance. The raging waves in the sea were hundreds of meters high. The majestic momentum was like the anger of nature. Fury said, "In other parts of the East Sea, the main obstacles are the powerful, demonic sea beasts in the sea. Only when you go deep into the sea will you encounter natural changes. Only here is different. There is the most terrifying force of nature here. This terrifying sea is called the myriad lightning calamity boundary. It refers to the tribulation formed by millions of lightning bolts, a terrifying barrier that is like hell. Even if a Type 9 powerhouse were to enter it, he would not be able to escape the fate of being destroyed in a short time." Ji-Dong said, "Shi Xiang, what about you? You're a lightning attribute devil master, and with your purple thunder heavenly dragon, can you go deep?" Fury chuckled and said, "That's hard to say. However, even if I want to try, I'll have to wait until I've advanced to 9 crowns and my lightning has evolved to level 10. This world of infinite lightning calamity doesn't only have young lightning, but also a large amount of lightning, hurricanes, and tornadoes. It's not that easy to break through. If you're interested, we can wait until we've all broken through 9 crowns, then we can try it." Ji-Dong said, "Shi Xiang, how come I don't see the holy and demonic passage?" After paying attention to the weather in the sea, his eyes fell on the nearby sea. But to his surprise, there were no islands or passages on the sea, only undulating waves. Fury said, "The holy and demonic passage only opens once every 5 years. It's not time yet. It's not something you can see easily. You'll understand when the time comes." Not on the sea. This sentence made Ji-Dong curious. His eyes moved from the sea to the land. This time, he saw an endless number of tents. The different colors of the tents represented the different empires. Among them, the green and yellow tents were the most numerous. Clearly, the Easternwood Empire and the Central Plains Empire had the most troops stationed there. These tents were stationed by the seaside. Putting everything else aside, just the daily consumption of food was an astronomical figure. Only the 5 empires that could maintain a permanent garrison here all year round. It was also because of the huge threat from outside the East Sea that the 5 Elements continent had been able to maintain peace for many years. From this point of view, the existence of the Dark 5 Elements continent was not necessarily a bad thing. After all, for so many years, the people on the continent have been enjoying a peaceful and happy life. In the inner circle of the camps of the 5 empires, there was a separate camp. This camp was completely made up of golden tents. Compared to the armies on the periphery, there were far fewer tents. However, it gave off a feeling of being surrounded by stars. Fury followed Ji-Dong's gaze and said, "See that? That golden tent is the place where the Heavenly Dry Academy is stationed. Every year, there will be students who have completed the 5-year garrison mission leaving here. There will also be a new batch coming here. After years of accumulation, The total number of Heavenly Dry Academy students guarding the border has always been maintained at around 1,500 people. At one time, there were more than 2,000 people. Their average cultivation level is higher than 4 crowns. Although there are many powerful magic masters in the Five Empires Coalition, there is no doubt that the magic masters of the Heavenly Dry Academy are the real core. At this point, Fury laughed somewhat self-deprecatingly and said, I forgot that I am no longer a person of the Heavenly Dry Academy. Back then, when I first participated in the Battle of the Holy Evil, I also stayed here for 5 years. Junior brother, do you know that actually staying here for 5 years is even better than training in the academy? Because life here is extremely boring and it is impossible to leave. What else can you do besides training? With the guidance and help of so many seniors, by the time every student of the Heavenly Dry Academy leaves here, their magic power has already broken through to 4 crowns or close to 5 crowns. If it is a disciple of the Yin Yang school, by the time they leave here, there is no one who hasn't broken through to 5 crowns. Therefore, although this place is the border defense line, it is also the cradle of our 5 elements continent's high-level magic masters. The accumulation of 1,000 years has created a phenomenon. Now, most of the nobles on the continent are magic masters, and many of them are high-level magic masters. This is because they or their ancestors were once stationed here. Ji Dong frowned and said, The nobles are powerful. The unlucky ones are the commoners. Fury looked at him in surprise and said, You've noticed this too? Right now, our continent is far from being as peaceful as it looks on the surface. The conflict between the nobles and the commoners is becoming more and more intense. It is only because the difference in strength is too great that it has not shown itself. For the sake of the continent's peace, the battle of the holy evil cannot be lost. Otherwise, if the dark people of the 5 elements continent invade our land, I am afraid that there will be internal disintegration. A strange expression appeared on Ji Dong's face. For the sake of the continent's peace? Senior brother, what you are saying should be for the sake of the noble's peace, right? Fury was stunned for a moment. I understand what you mean, but you also know that this is not something that you and I can change. The problems that have accumulated for 1,000 years have long been deeply rooted. The only thing we can do is to do our best to maintain it. Ji Dong smiled indifferently and said, If the chronic problems are not cured, they will only sink deeper and deeper. When there is no cure, I am afraid that the entire continent will be overturned. At that time, I am afraid that it will be out of control. Perhaps in a few decades, or maybe a few centuries, if this continues, it will happen one day. Fury was silent for a moment, but did not continue Ji Dong's words. He pointed below and said, They have discovered us. As expected, in the large tent below, several black figures rose into the air, and in the blink of an eye, they had already risen into the air. There were a total of 3 figures, faintly surrounding the purple thunder, brilliant heavenly dragon in the center. They all released their own demonic energy. Impressively, they were 3 6-crown heaven soldier powerhouses, and they all had flying-type magical beast companions. The 3 of them looked to be around 40 years old. They were respectively Yang Water Element, Yin Earth Element, and Yang Wood Element. However, their mounts were not as imposing as Fury's dragons. They were all rank 6 bird-type magical beasts, and they were also wearing armor. Even though their auras were much weaker than Fury's, they were still 6-crown heaven scholars. Adding on their flying magical beasts, they could be considered extraordinary figures on the continent. Fury proudly sat on the back of the purple thunder brilliant sky dragon and said to the 6-crown heaven scholar in front of him, Senior brotherly, after not seeing you for 5 years, you are still as elegant as ever. The 9 water scholars sneered and said, I do not dare to be called senior brother by the Thunder Emperor. I heard that you have already decided to leave the Yin Yang Hall. Why are you here? The relationship between the water and fire elements had never been reconciled, especially the Yang water and Yang fire element. Fury's eyes narrowed and said, Li Yexin, if you want to die, I don't mind fulfilling your wish. Even the dean would not use the word betrayal on me. Who do you think you are? The Thunder Emperor would only be amiable in front of his teacher and his junior brother Jidong. Only when facing outsiders would he show his true colors. The nine-water scholar Li Yexin coldly snorted and said, "Fury, do you think we are afraid of you? Look carefully. We have all broken through the 6-crown heaven scholars, and we also have magical beast mounts to help us. This is the location of the holy and evil passage. You should know that the 5 great empires have jointly banned anyone who comes here to cause trouble. Kill without mercy." It was obvious that this guy had an old grudge with Fury. At this time, he was relying on the advantage of numbers and could be considered unyielding. Fury sneered and said, "With just the 3 of you?" Blinding lightning soared up like an explosion, and a white sun crown suddenly appeared above his head. The 7 lightning marks on the crown shone brightly, and the aura of the Thunder Emperor instantly fused with the purple thunder, heavenly dragon beneath him. A terrifying pressure that was close to the myriad thunder calamity realm suddenly erupted. In terms of compatibility with his magical beast companion, very few people could compare with Fury. This was because his totem was created by himself, which was also his purple thunder heaven dragon. One man and one dragon had long since become one. Moreover, with his 7-crown cultivation and the purple thunder heaven dragon of the 8th step, his aura was completely released and immediately created an extremely terrifying scene. The entire sky darkened in an instant. In almost the blink of an eye, large patches of dark clouds had already condensed in the sky. The surging thunder and lightning frantically swept away the other elements. The air was filled with a manic aura. The heavy aura that was like a mountain pressing down on them caused the 3 heaven scholars to turn pale with fright. The magical beast under them retreated uneasily, especially the young would attribute magical beast. Its body was constantly trembling. 7-crown. You broke through the 7-crown? 9-water scholar Li Yexin said in shock. Fury said coldly, "Come at me. Let me see how much you've improved in these 5 years. If you can take 3 of my moves, it'll be your win. I'll let you deal with me as you wish." Li Yexin swallowed a mouthful of saliva. If Fury was still at the level of 6 crowns, with their 3 6-crowns heaven scholars and the strength of the 3 magical beasts, they would have a fighting chance. However, what appeared in front of them was the 7 crowns Thunder Emperor. The difference of 1 crown could be said to be like the difference between heaven and earth. Although their expressions were cold and stern, they were already showing signs of weakness on the inside. "Stop!" A shout rang out from below. Although the purple thunder heaven dragon was already flying very low, it was still more than 500 meters above the ground. To be able to transmit the voice from the ground into the sky without dissipating, it could be seen the strength of the owner of the voice. With a flash of silver light, Jidong, who was sitting behind Fury, did not even have time to see who it was before another person appeared in front of Fury. The newcomer was tall, at most half a head shorter than Fury, and he looked to be in his 50s or 60s. His mount was a silver dragon that was only about 7 meters long, and he wore a silver full-body armor. He had a square face, a beard, and an intimidating look on his face. "What are you all doing? All of you get down." The silver dragon knight shouted coldly at the 3 heaven scholars. Li Yexin secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Although he was unwilling, he still hurriedly retracted his wings and descended with his 2 companions. Seeing them leave, the silver dragon knight turned to Fury, laughed, and said, "Fury, you stinking brat, you've just arrived and you want to show off your strength?" Fury indifferently smiled and said, "Brother Su, it's not me who wants to show off my strength. It's them who want to show off their strength." The silver dragon knight, who was called Brother Su, laughed and said, All right, let's not talk about this. Let's go down and talk. The holy and evil passage is about to open. We were all patrolling just now. Otherwise, those brats wouldn't have a chance to come up. You brat, in these 5 years you haven't come back to visit your brothers. I don't believe in their words of betrayal. If anyone dares to say any more nonsense, I will cripple them first. Hearing Brother Su's words, Fury's expression softened a bit and said, Brother, I thought that even you didn't respect me as a brother. Brother Su snappily said, You brat, don't think that I can't beat you up just because you've won 7 championships. Hurry up and come down with me. With us here, even if the dean orders to arrest you, he will have to think twice. Who is the one who risked his life on the holy and evil battlefield? Let's not talk about anything else. Let's have a good drink tonight." Fury laughed and said, "All right, in terms of strength, I'm not as good as the other brothers. But in terms of drinking, the 5 of you come together, us 2 brothers will take care of it." Chapter 139. Senior brother Su glanced at Ji Dong, who was behind Fury, and said, "Fury, is this the junior brother who almost caused a battle between Supremes? Tell me the truth. The purpose of your visit this time is—" Fury's expression froze as he said, "This is my little junior brother, Ji Dong." "Senior brother, don't you know my temper? We only have one goal, and that is to kill the enemy. Any power struggle has nothing to do with us. Who says I'm a traitor? Fine, let him come and have a match with me. All of us brothers will accept it." Senior brother Su nodded his head and said, "Your words are more than enough. Whoever dares to obstruct you from entering the Saint Evil battlefield will be making life difficult for us. Let's go. Let's head down first." As he spoke, the silver dragon beneath him extended its body, and with a slight flap of its wings, it disappeared like a silver meteor. "Junior brother, this person is a good friend of mine. His name is Su Yonglong. 5 years ago, he was already a 7-crown heavenly master and is one of the deputy commanders in our Heavenly Stems Legion. His nickname is Cloud Dragon, and although his silver dragon is the smallest of the dragon race, only having the strength of the 7th Order, is the fastest. Before he was 50 years old, in the Holy Evil battlefield, he was the most troublesome opponent and would often ambush the enemy in places where they would not appear. He is an absolute veteran here, and has been guarding this place for dozens of years. Together with the other 3 deputy commanders, the commander, and me, we form the 6 Radiant Dragons. I also have another nickname, Thunder Dragon. The 6 of us are all dragon riders, and all 5 of us have the word dragon in our names. It's a pity that we don't belong to the 5 elements, or else we would be even more powerful together. Even so, they are the backbone of this place, and even the directors of the academy have to give them some respect. After all, they have spent half of their lives here, and in terms of titles, the 5 of them are the Grand Dukes of their respective countries." As he spoke, the purple thunder, brilliant heavenly dragon retracted its wings and landed on the ground. It stopped right in front of the golden tents of the Heavenly Stems Legion. The dark clouds in the sky also disappeared as Fury withdrew his aura, restoring the calm and tranquil scene. Su Yonglong had been waiting there for a long time. His silver dragon had also disappeared, and there were 3 other people waiting there as well. They all looked to be in their 50s or 60s. Although they all looked different, they all had their own unique temperament. Their eyes were deep and unfathomable. Without a doubt, they all had extremely powerful strength. Fury pulled Ji Dong down from the back of the purple thunder, brilliant heavenly dragon, and quickly took a few steps forward. He saluted the other 3 middle-aged men and said, "Fury greets senior brothers. Why are you all here?" On the far left was a middle-aged man with a tall figure and a simple appearance. He had short hair and seemed to be extremely spirited. He chuckled and said, "How can we not know that you caused such a commotion in the sky? First, introduce us to this little brother." Fury nodded and said to the 4 people in front of him, "This is my little junior brother. He should also be Master's last disciple. His name is Ji Dong." Ji Dong nodded slightly as a form of greeting, but he did not speak. Fury said, "These 4 senior brothers are the deputy commanders of the Heavenly Stems Legion. They are also great contributors in guarding the border. Senior brother Su Yonglong, nicknamed Cloud Dragon, is known for his speed. I have already introduced him to you. This is senior brother Du Quanglong, nicknamed Lion Dragon. He is of the first wood element." Fury introduced the middle-aged man who had just spoken. Ji Dong fixed his eyes on him. This middle-aged man looked ordinary and gave off a gentle and refined temperament. Su Yonglong chuckled and said, "He's a freak. Don't be fooled by his appearance. When this guy fights, he's like a madman. That's why we call him a beast most of the time." Du Quanglong said angrily, Old Su, are you not convinced? If you're not convinced, let's fight. Su Yonglong snorted and said, let's talk if you can catch up with me. Fury laughed and said, Senior brother Du Quanglong is known as the king of attack. When he attacks, he doesn't look like a first-wood element magician at all. I have always thought that he should be of our third fire element. Fury, you are not being nice. Why don't you introduce him quickly? Another middle-aged man standing next to Du Quanglong suddenly said something that made Ji Dong stunned. This person's voice was a bit sharper than a woman's. Especially when he spoke, he deliberately pinched his thumb and middle finger. It looked like he was acting coquettishly. The two people standing next to him took a step forward and acted as if they did not know him. Su Yonglong even slapped his forehead with his hand, as if he could not bear it. Fury's facial muscles also moved a little and said, Little junior brother, this is senior brother Jean Zalong, nicknamed Golden Dragon. He is of the metal element and is known for his ever-changing magic skills and extreme attacks. Frankly speaking, if one only looked at Jean Zalong, they really could not find any fault with him. His appearance was also the most handsome one among them. His skin was slightly white, his eyebrows were arched, and his eyes were like phoenixes. He also had a head of elegant, long golden hair. However, when he opened his mouth and acted, no matter how handsome his face was, it was destroyed by the atmosphere. It was really difficult to accept. Jean Zalong looked at the crowd with dissatisfaction and showed a sad look on his face. He said, I don't want to be like this, but I am born with 99 in metal element. The in chi is too heavy, and I can't do anything about it. Oh, little brother, your skin is really good. Listening to the first part of Jean Zalong's words, Ji Dong was shocked. 99 in metal element. This could be said to be the existence of the extreme element. This alone was enough to show that this sissy of the 6 glorious dragons had extraordinary strength. However, when Jean Zalong said the last sentence, he really could not stand it anymore. His face turned pale, and he quickly turned his head away. Ahem, let me introduce myself. Zalong, be quiet for a while. The last middle-aged man was much more normal. He was tall, not inferior to Fury, with a head of fiery red short hair. He looked somewhat similar to Ji Dong's good brother, Kar, but more burly. My name is Jean Zalong, nicknamed Fire Dragon. I am of the third fire element. I used to study under Master Zhurong, but I was only a registered disciple. In other words, I'm also your real senior brother. Of course, among us, my strength is the weakest, not worth mentioning. Fury laughed heartily and said, Senior brother Jean, you're mocking me, right? If I remember correctly, you already had 7 crowns 5 years ago. It's not your turn to be the worst. Jean Zalong said very seriously, No, my comprehensive strength is definitely not as good as yours. My fire dragon's rank is low, not as good as your purple thunder heavenly dragon. Fury said, Senior brother Jean, you are still so serious. Jean Zalong said impatiently, Zalong is like this. If I am not serious, the reputation of the 6 glorious dragons will be ruined. Fury Hyoheim said, Oh, by the way, Senior brother Jean Zalong and Senior brother Jean Zalong are blood brothers. Senior brother Jean Zalong is the elder brother. Blood brothers? Ji Dong couldn't help but open his mouth in surprise. No matter how he looked at it, he couldn't see any similarities between these two so-called brothers. Jean Zalong opened his mouth again and said, I look like my mother, and Gu Long looks like my father. We also have our parents' attributes, so our appearances are a little different. Little brother, your skin is really good. I'm so envious. Resisting the desire to vomit, Ji Dong subconsciously took a step back. Yun Long and Shilong next to him couldn't help but burst into laughter. Fury shook his head helplessly and said, Senior brothers alone, please spare my little brother. He's going to enter the holy evil battlefield with me. The 4 dragons in front of him were stunned at the same time. Du Quanglong said in a deep voice, Fury, we have heard about what happened to you. The 300 candidates to enter the holy evil island have also been determined. The leader is Yi Xin. Although I don't know how Ji Dong could kill Ji Feng. Don't forget that Ji Feng is the only heir of the imperial family of the Central Empire. This hatred is as deep as the sea. Outside, there are two supreme seniors, so no one dares to do anything to him. But who can say anything in the holy evil battlefield? Don't forget that once you enter the holy evil battlefield, you will be separated. You have been there twice, so you naturally know the danger of the holy evil battlefield. Do the two supreme seniors know about this? Fury smiled and said, "Without the permission of the Grandmaster, how dare I bring my little brother here? Senior brothers, please rest assured. Now, in the Heavenly STEM Academy, even in the Yin Hall, I am afraid no one could defeat my little brother." Jean Zalong said in disbelief, "Fury, how old is your little brother this year?" Fury looked at Ji Dong. Ji Dong said, 16 years old. Jean Zalong wanted to say something, but Su Yonglong said, "Old Jean, don't ask too much. Since it is the decision of His Majesty, is there a need for us to question it? Fury, don't worry about this matter. With our support, although there are Director Shui and First Wood Department's Director Dong, they can't stop you from entering the holy evil battlefield. The overall situation is the most important. That girl Yi Xin has improved a lot in recent years, but compared to you, she is still far behind." Hearing the name, Yi Xin, Fury's face clearly became indifferent. A strange light flashed in his eyes. Although it was only for a moment, but Ji Dong, who was beside him, still noticed it. Fury laughed and said, "Then I'll leave the matter of entering the Saint Evil battlefield to you senior brothers. There should be 7 to 8 days left. No matter what, we must call Senior Brother Song over tonight. We won't leave until we're drunk." Su Yonglong laughed and said, "Even if you want to run, you can't. I heard that you have just been promoted to a 9-star bartender, and you're already at the level of the god of wine." Fury smiled and said, "So Senior Brother Su has always been thinking about my wine. This is easy." As he said that, he winked to Hyoheim. However, no matter how he tried to hide it, Ji Dong clearly remembered the flash of sadness in Fury's eyes. Ji Dong and Fury were arranged to stay in a golden tent. It was still early, so after arranging their accommodations, the 4 dragon riders went to do their own things. The holy and evil passage was about to open, and this was the busiest time for them every 5 years. "Senior brother," Ji Dong called out to Fury. Fury lay on the bed and turned his head. The golden tent had all kinds of daily necessities, and they were all the best in the world. Ji Dong sat on the bed and said, "Are you thinking about senior sister Yi Xin?" Fury's eyes turned cold and said, "Why would I think about her? That fickle woman." Ji Dong said, "Senior brother, you don't have to hide anything between us brothers. I can see that you still have feelings for senior sister Yi Xin. It's just that you don't want to admit it. Last time at the ball, I understood that sometimes you have to see through the surface to see the essence. Don't jump to conclusions too early, and don't be blinded by your own stubbornness. Don't be fooled by his effeminate appearance. Senior brother Jean Zalong's control of demonic power has even been greatly praised by the Grandmaster. He has already reached the pinnacle and will never use any more or less demonic power. He is also the other powerhouse who has achieved the power of 8 crowns and is currently the youngest celestial master. His 99% metal attribute talent makes it very likely that he will become the next supreme powerhouse. As for Senior Brother Song, he is known as the successor of Ji Changshin's heavenly Dipper Highness. After not seeing him for 5 years, his demonic power is estimated to be extremely close to 9 crowns. Senior Brother Song should be in his 70s this year. Although he is not a member of the Central Empire's royal family, his status in the Central Empire is comparable to that of a king. Not only has he been conferred the title of Grand Duke, he is also the Grand Marshal of the Central Empire's armies. The Central Empire's army stationed here also listens to his orders. He is an extremely powerful figure. If I had not broken through to 7 crowns, it would really be an exaggeration to call me the same as these 5 senior brothers. These 5 senior brothers were once the chief disciples of the Yin-Yang school. Su Yonglong, Jin Gulong, and Du Quanglong, these 3 senior brothers of similar age, have challenged each other countless times for the position of the Yin-Yang school's chief disciple. With the support of these 5 senior brothers, the Academy would not dare to stop us from entering the holy evil battlefield. Hearing Fury deliberately changing the topic, Ji Dong did not say anything more and only listened quietly. He would be surprised if there were not a few powerhouses guarding this place. The 5 radiant dragons were undoubtedly the mainstay. "Fury, are you there?" At this moment, a gentle voice rang out from outside the tent. Hearing this voice, Fury, who was explaining to Ji Dong about the 5 radiant dragons, suddenly stiffened. He sat up on the bed and said in a deep voice, "What are you doing here?" Chapter 140. A voice suddenly rang out from outside the tent, causing Fury's expression to turn extremely ugly. However, Ji Dong knew who this voice belonged to. He thought to himself, "Speak of the devil. Isn't the owner of this voice Yi Xian, who is ranked 3rd in the Yinyang Hall? Aren't you going to invite me in?" Yi Xian asked faintly. Fury's expression kept changing. Ji Dong stood up and said, "Senior, I'm going out for a walk." Fury waved his hand in annoyance and said, "No, you stay." After saying that, the Thunder Monarch, who had always been as unyielding as steel, hesitated for a moment before saying to the outside of the tent, "Yi Xian, come in." Ji Dong sat down helplessly. The curtains of the tent were lifted, and the tall Yi Xian walked in. She was no longer wearing her usual purple dress. Instead, she was wearing a purple robe, which accentuated her slender and alluring figure. She was extremely alluring, like a ripe apple waiting to be plucked. However, her face was a little pale, and her inner anxiety could be seen from her expression. For her to show such an expression despite being a level 50 great grandmaster, one could imagine how she was feeling right now. Fury said coldly, "You don't have to put on an act in front of me. Just spit it out." Yi Xian looked at Fury with a hint of bitterness in her eyes. She bit her lower lip and said, "Everyone hopes that you can come back and take charge. Only you can be the leader." Fury laughed coldly and said, "You're thinking of me now? Why didn't any of you stand up for my junior after Ji Feng's death? All of you only know how to care about yourselves. Go back and tell them that I am me and you are you. I will enter the Saint Evil battlefield, but it has nothing to do with the Heavenly STEM Academy. Go." Yi Xian said anxiously, "Fury, can you bear to see everyone die in the Saint Evil battlefield? Without your leadership, I'm afraid less than 1/3 of the people will be able to make it out alive." Fury suddenly stood up. His burly figure, which was over 2 meters tall, formed a stark contrast with Yi Xian's slender figure. The Thunder Emperor's powerful aura caused Yi Xian to subconsciously take a step back. She did not dare to meet his gaze, which seemed to be able to burn one's soul. Fury said coldly, "Remember this. From now on, the Yin-Yang School has nothing to do with me. Your lives and deaths have nothing to do with me. After so many years, do you think I don't know? You've been working together behind my back to deal with me. It's just that you didn't dare to make a move. Now that the battle between Saint and Evil is over, you've thought of my benefits. Go back and don't let me see you again. Whether you can walk out of the Saint and Evil battlefield is your own business." Yi Xian said angrily, "Do you want to see us lose the battle between Holy and Evil? Without your command, how many of the experts stationed here will listen to my orders? I'm just a figurehead. When I enter, no one will listen to my orders. I won't be able to gather my strength in a short period of time. Not to mention that no one will be able to come out alive. The Saint Evil battlefield will definitely lean towards the side of the 5 Elements continent. Is this what you want to see? In my heart, the Thunder Emperor, Fury, is a man of indomitable spirit. That's right, you're right. We're planning to deal with you, but do you know why? It's because you're too strong, so strong that everyone can't breathe. Although you're strong, you're too headstrong. Have you ever thought that even if I was instructed by my teacher to get close to you with my character and position in the Yin-Yang School, if I didn't truly like you, would I give everything to you? But you didn't even give me a chance to explain and just threw it away. I wanted to deal with you, and I wanted to lead the Yin-Yang Hall brothers to defeat you. I wanted to see the day when you were defeated in front of me. But that coward Ji Feng didn't dare to face you, and he wanted to touch me. Dream on. It's good that he died, a clean death. Fury, I can temporarily put down the humiliation and everything you've given me, and come here to ask you to take control of the Yin-Yang School. But why? Don't you understand? As the former leader, The battle between the holy and evil saints isn't something that concerns you or me. It concerns the safety of the entire continent. No matter what kind of hatred we have to put aside for now. Even if you come to take revenge after the battle, I'll take it all on and let you deal with it as you wish. Fury's expression did not change at all as he listened to Yi Xian's words. He was still as cold and tough as ever. Only when Yi Xian said, "Do as you please," did his brows twitch slightly. He said, "You let me do as I please after the battle between the holy and evil ends?" Yi Xian puffed up her chest and said without hesitation, "That's right. You can do whatever you want of me." Fury nodded. "All right, it's a deal." As he spoke, he stretched out his right hand. Yi Xian quickly extended her palm to meet his. A look of relief appeared on her face. She was clearly much more relaxed. "You know where to find us. I'll be leaving first." As she spoke, she turned around and left. The moment she stepped out of the door, a sly look appeared on Yi Xian's face. She thought to herself, "Fury, oh Fury, if I don't let you do whatever you want of me, how can I let you know my true feelings? Do you know that your eyes betrayed you at the ball last time?" Fury stood on the spot as Yi Xian left. He seemed to be deep in thought. After a while, he slowly turned around and sat on the bed. He sighed and said, "I've been tricked by her." "Tricked?" Ji Dong asked doubtfully. Fury said, "I don't know how much I could trust Yi Xian's words, but one thing I'm sure of is that she came to me because of the board members. On the surface, there are only 2 board members leading the team, but in fact, every time the saint and evil battlefield opens, there will be a large number of experts gathering here. Even our martial ancestor and martial mother would pay attention to the situation here. Once the enemy attacks our passageway, all the experts will join forces to resist the enemy and use the geographical advantage to deal a heavy blow to the enemy. This is also the reason why both sides rarely attack each other, even though we have the upper hand in the saint and evil battle. It must be the board members who instructed Yi Xian to persuade me. There are a total of 300 people participating in the saint and evil battle. Every time, there will not be more than 150 people participating from the Heavenly STEM Academy. The rest are experts below the age of 50 selected from the Heavenly STEM Legion. The real main force is the disciples of the Yin Yang School and the students of the Heavenly STEM Legion. Yi Xian is right about one thing. If she enters the saint and evil battlefield as the chief disciple, the people of the Heavenly STEM Legion will not listen to her at all. She does not have the strength to intimidate everyone. Ji Dong smiled and said, "Senior brother, just treat it as giving her a chance and also giving yourself a chance." Fury looked at Ji Dong and suddenly laughed. "Junior brother, why do I feel that you're like a Casanova? Speaking of which, where's the girl you brought to the ball last time? She's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Our Yin Yang school has no lack of beauties, but in front of her, all of them paled in comparison. The 2 of you seemed to be very intimate that day." Hearing Fury mention the flaming bar, Ji Dong's face unknowingly turned red. He scratched his head and said, "Actually, she's just a friend of mine. I didn't expect her to come that day. At most, it can only be considered as my unrequited love for her." Fury chuckled and said, "Junior brother, what unrequited love are you talking about? It's just a small matter between men and women. Once the window paper is broken, everything will be clear. You're my junior brother, a dual flame devil with a limitless future. Are you afraid that she won't be with you? It's not easy to find a good woman. Don't give up now that you've seized the opportunity." Ji Dong smiled bitterly in his heart. Was he really worthy of the flaming bar? The answer was definitely no, but how could he explain it to Fury? 7 days later at the seaside, the sea breeze blew, bringing with it the unique smell of the sea. The realm of infinite lightning calamity in the distance seemed to be getting more and more agitated. The waves surged and crashed against the shore, producing rumbling sounds from time to time. At this moment, there were at least 2,000 people gathered at the seaside. Every one of them was dressed in eye-catching golden warrior robes. Among the hundreds of people standing at the front, most of them were dressed in armor. Ji Dong stood next to the Thunder Emperor, Fury, who was at the very front. Today, Fury appeared especially tall and straight. The golden warrior robes were the representative of the five elements continent. Those of the same color were comrades. Even Ji Dong had changed into such clothes. Fury was the only one who did not wear it. The Thunder Emperor's entire body was covered in bluish-purple armor. The armor looked extremely sturdy and had distinct edges. There was a visor on his helmet, which covered Fury's face. However, it could not hide the overwhelming and powerful aura that was released from his body. In his right hand, the huge Thunder Battle Axe was more than 7 meters long, but the radius of the axe was 2 meters. When he swung it, it seemed like it could even split a mountain into two. These were Fury's magical weapons and equipment, the Heavenly Thunder Divine Radiance Armor and Thunder Battle Axe. After being fully equipped, Fury only gave off one feeling. It could be described as a lethal weapon in the human world. Even if the other 5 of the 6 radiant dragons stood beside him, they would not be able to compare to his aura. The sea breeze that blew in front of him brushed past his sides, not daring to collide head-on. Among the 6 radiant dragons, other than the 4 that Ji Dong was already very familiar with, the Heavenly Stems Legion's commander, the stone dragon Song Ruelong, finally appeared. Song Ruelong had a medium build and was handsome. His expression was as steady as a mountain, as his nickname suggested. He looked like he was only 50 years old. If not for Fury's words, Ji Dong would find it hard to believe that the person in front of him was already over 70 years old. Song Ruelong's aura was the complete opposite of Fury's. Fury's aura was completely overbearing, while Song Ruelong's aura was completely reserved and profound. If Ji Dong were to evaluate him, he would say that he was unfathomable. The 6 radiant dragons stood in the front, while Ji Dong followed behind Fury. He was only wearing a golden outfit. He didn't put on his demon Lord Yin-Yang armor, because he wanted to wait until they entered the holy evil battlefield before putting on his armor. This way, no one would be able to recognize him. Ji Dong was obviously basking in Fury's glory. He followed closely behind Fury without saying anything. Even the 2 board members of the Heavenly STEM Academy, who were standing not too far away from Zhu Rong, were the same. Even Elder Shui, who had always been at odds with Zhu Rong, was also very quiet at this moment. The 298 warriors stood at the back. Almost every one of them had their own magic armor. Most of them were wearing armor that covered their faces. These people were the representatives of the radiant 5 elements continent that had entered the holy evil battlefield to participate in the holy evil battle. Yi Xin stood at the forefront of the Heavenly STEM Academy side. Today, she was wearing a dark purple armor. Looking at the style, it was actually somewhat similar to Fury's. She was holding a 3-chi 6-inch-long rapier in her hand. Just from the style of the armor, Ji Dong could guess that this was also the work of his elder brother. Zhu Yan's forging method was still traceable. It seemed that Zhu Yan had forged this armor for Yi Xin when their relationship was still good. The holy evil passageway was about to open. Everyone was waiting for the arrival of this once every 5 years moment. Fury quietly gazed at the distant sea like a statue. This was a matter of life and death, and it was also related to the outcome of the 2 hostile continents. No one from the Heavenly STEM Academy objected to Fury becoming the chief participant of the battle. Ji Dong also clearly discovered why Yi Xin couldn't command all the participants. Among the experts of the Heavenly STEM Legion, there were more than 10 six-crown magicians and above. Although their strength couldn't be compared to Fury's, it was definitely not something that Yi Xin and the other disciples of the Yin-Yang Hall could compare to. Without a doubt, these people were the true core strength. Even without Fury saying anything, Ji Dong could already guess that they should be the former disciples of the Yin-Yang Hall. Without the deterrence of the Thunder Emperor, would they listen to the command of a weak woman like Yi Xin? On the surface, there seemed to be less than 2,000 magicians waiting at the seaside. But in reality, in the encampments of the 5 great empires, the army was surging, and they were already prepared for battle. Not far away, there were also many powerful auras paying attention to the movements here. At this moment, Ji Dong couldn't help but feel a little nervous. He didn't know what the scene in the holy evil battlefield would be like. After entering the battlefield, at least in the early stages, he could only rely on himself. Just as Ji-dong was thinking, suddenly, there was a loud rumble. It was clearly a sunny day, but it was like a sudden clap of thunder. Then, the sea in front of them seemed to be boiling. The seawater suddenly rose, and the waves reached hundreds of meters into the sky. An incomparably vast energy instantly bloomed, and an incomparably shocking scene appeared in front of everyone. At this moment, the air completely froze, and everyone felt as if they couldn't breathe. In just an instant, the sky darkened, and dark clouds seemed to form in an instant, covering the entire sky. Lightning flashed in the thick clouds, as if the myriad lightning calamity had spread out. Chapter 141. Ji-dong still remembered that when he first heard about the holy evil battlefield, it was from Yang Bingtian. At that time, Yang Bingtian told him that the two ends of the holy evil island were connected to two continents. But now he knew that the truth was not so simple. The holy evil island was indeed connected to the two continents, but it was not on the sea, but on the bottom of the sea. No one could reach the bottom of the sea through the sea, where there were powerful sea magical beasts. The real holy evil passage was not there, but on the sea surface. In the surging waves of hundreds of feet, the colorful light flickered, magnificent, and boundless aura came from the halo of 10 colors. The air was frozen, and people near the sea could not breathe. In the face of the pressure that seemed to be the truth of heaven and earth, everyone seemed so small. But in Ji-dong's heart, there was a very different feeling. He clearly found that the aura emitted by the colorful light was very similar to the moment he saw the third fire formation when he entered the third fire temple. Although everything in front of him was more magnificent, he could be sure that this was definitely from the same source. Yao Qianshu was right, Ji-dong thought to himself. The majestic scene before his eyes originated from the 5 elements magic formation. It was a perfect combination of 10 elements. And who knew how much magic was released to form such a terrifying phenomenon that was as unstoppable as a natural phenomenon? However, its source was the 5 elements magic formation. Before Ji-dong could think about it carefully, the scene in the sky changed once again. Amidst the huge mana fluctuations, the 10-colored halos gradually condensed and turned into a huge vortex. The seawater became their carrier, and the surging mana gradually converged. The originally dark land also seemed to be illuminated by the 10-colored radiance. The suffocating pressure suddenly disappeared and was replaced by a strong aura that made people yearn for it endlessly. Extreme. Yes, it was the extreme. Those 10 colors clearly represented the ultimate mana of the 10 elements. And at the core of that huge vortex, only Ji-dong could feel the most fundamental power, chaos. At this moment, Ji-dong understood. He finally understood the principle of the holy and evil passage. At the beginning, the 20 heavenly stem saints of the two continents not only imprinted the formation, but also condensed this incomparably solid and eternal chaos with all their power. It was this chaos that was tirelessly absorbing the original force of 10 elements between heaven and earth. Every 5 years, it could be transformed into a shape. This was a great work, even a miracle. In Ji-dong's heart, he could not help but have a kind of sincere admiration, not only for the heavenly stem saints of the 5 elements continent, but also for the heavenly stem saints of the 5 elements continent. It was these 20 saints who did not hesitate to sacrifice their lives to bring everything so that the two continents could rest and maintain peace. At this moment, who could understand the painstaking efforts of these ancestors, standing on the beach and preparing to enter the holy and evil battlefield? Boom! The 5 elements reversed, and the 10 colored lights instantly bloomed and then suddenly converged. A 20 meters wide and 30 meters high multicolored arched door suddenly appeared on the surface of the sea. The sky was still covered with dark clouds, and it was still as gloomy as before. Above the sea, there was only this multicolored arched door that seemed to be the center of thousands of things. The vortex formed by the multicolored halos rotated quietly, and all the aura was completely restrained. Yes, this was the entrance to the holy and evil passage. Fury's eyes that were hidden under the heavenly thunder divine light armor suddenly lit up, and his right hand that was holding the thunder battle axe suddenly tightened. The commander of the heavenly stem army, Song Ruilong, raised his right hand in front of Fury, and Fury raised his left hand. Both of their palms hit each other, and unexpectedly, there was a loud clang. There were no words of encouragement, and everything was in this palm strike. The stone dragon, the lion dragon, the golden dragon, the fire dragon, the cloud dragon, and the radiance dragon roared at the same time. Their earth-shaking roars were filled with a tragic aura. The 5 dragons roared at the same time to cheer up the warriors who were about to rush to the battlefield. The huge thunder battle axe that was more than 7 meters long was like a sharp weapon that could split the heavens and the earth. A strong blue-purple lightning broke through the air, and Fury roared at the sky, "Let's go," as he said that he was the first to leap into the air. In mid-air, the huge lightning twisted and tore, and in the middle of the sky, there was a wave of distortion in the air, and in the midst of the earth-shaking dragon roar, the purple thunder heavenly dragon had already carried Fury's body. The huge dragon saddle and Fury's heavenly thunder divine light armor instantly fused together, and in the midst of the clanging sound, Fury had already displayed his strongest battle state. Spreading its wings, the purple thunder heavenly dragon once again roared and carried Fury's body straight towards the huge light gate formed by the 10 colored lights, and in the blink of an eye, they disappeared. Immediately after Fury, more than 10 six-crowned devil masters and above rose up one after another, and each summoned their own devil beast companion to enter the light gate. 300 devil masters, one after another, used their own methods to step on the waves and disappeared into the huge light gate. With the support of the red third fire, Jidong's body shot out like a cannonball. His body stretched out in mid-air, and in the midst of the crowd, he rushed straight into the holy and evil passage. When the momentum of his body slowed down, he did not release his vermilion bird wings, but pressed his palms down, and the third fire magic burst out. And with the help of the explosive power of the third fire, his body quickly chased after the devil masters. Purely in terms of magic, he was ranked in the middle among the 300 devil masters, and in the blink of an eye, he had already rushed into the holy and evil passage. Jidong, be careful. Just before he entered the holy and evil passage, a delicate voice sounded in Jidong's ears. It was too late to look back, but the appearance of the owner of the voice appeared in his mind at the same time as his body was completely engulfed by the colorful halo. It was Lon Bauer, who had followed him to the Earth Spirit mountain range for the preliminary examination. Yes, this time Lon Bauer had also come to the Holy Evil Island. Before, Jidong had also seen her, but he did not come forward to greet her. He did not want to bring trouble to Lon Bauer because of his relationship with her, and he did not want her to misunderstand his actions. The strong light completely turned Jidong's eyes into a colorful world, and the huge energy made everything around his body solidified. It seemed to be a huge magic that no human could resist. Jidong clearly felt that this pressure could not be withstood without the magic of 3 crowns or above. The next moment, a strong, twisting pain came, as if his body was about to be torn apart, and his eyes had already turned white. Since the beginning of the omnidirectional teleportation scroll, Jidong had experienced a lot of teleportation. The one that he had experienced the most was undoubtedly the Red Lotus teleportation in the Flaming Bar. However, none of the previous teleportation had brought him such pain. The yin and yang vortex in his body rotated violently, protecting itself. At the same time, the Suzaku inner armor also emerged under the external pressure, automatically protecting his body. Jidong understood that when the Devil Masters entered the holy and demonic passage, they wore armor, not only to defend against the enemy, but also to deal with the pressure of the teleportation. Fury was very confident in Jidong's strength, so he did not tell him these details. The appearance of the Suzaku inner armor immediately caused the pressure to disappear. Although the 10 types of magic were strong, after all, they were combined to form passage. Jidong's cultivation was not the highest, but in terms of physical strength, he was afraid that among the 300 Devil Masters, including the Thunder Emperor Fury. No one could compare to him. With the pressure gone, Ji-dong wholeheartedly felt the changes of the five elements' energy wheel around him. Combined with his understanding of the five elements array, he had a faint understanding. Just as he was about to grasp this understanding, his body suddenly became light, and the colorful light disappeared like smoke. With a shake of his feet, he had already landed on the ground and arrived in a strange place. The sky was still gloomy. The ground under his feet was soft and moist soil, mixed with the faint smell of blood and the fragrance of plants, moist air. Ji-dong found that he was under an incomparably thick tree. The tree in front of him was so tall that he could not see its top. At least a dozen people would need to hug it. The huge canopy of the tree covered the sky, and he could only vaguely see the dark clouds in the sky through the gaps. The surroundings were also full of such trees, giving people a feeling as if they were in a giant's world. Almost without any hesitation, Ji-dong had already raised his right hand. A golden red light circulated, and the vermilion bird totem on the vermilion bird bracelet seemed to have come to life. It floated around the bracelet, and a dark red light shot out from it. It was the mask with the 10 twisting thorns. With a flash of light, the feeling of flesh and blood had already appeared on Ji-dong's face. Everything in front of him had already turned blood red, wearing the mask of the devil monarch yin-yang armor. Even Ji-dong himself felt a chill in his heart. There was no doubt that he had entered a strange world, the holy evil island. Here, there were countless unknown dangers. Of course, he had to maintain his strongest state at all times. Therefore, as soon as he entered, before he had time to observe the surroundings, Ji-dong had already chosen to put on his armor. As the mask fell, a dark red light shot out to all the joints and vital parts of Ji-dong's body, turning into a light armor. The dark red devil monarch yin-yang armor and the milky white Suzaku inner armor reflected each other. The Suzaku's wings were retracted behind its back, and the heart protection mirror just happened to not hinder its flapping. Just as Ji-dong put on the armor, suddenly, a black light lit up 10 meters away from him. In the flickering light, a figure had already appeared. More people came in, and they came from the five elements continent of darkness. Fury once told him that when he was teleported to the holy evil island, the golden light came from the five elements continent of light who were participating in the battle of the holy evil. On the other hand, the black light came from the five elements continent of darkness. Should this be considered good luck or bad luck? Ji-dong didn't have time to think. In the instant that the black light flashed, he had already rushed out, directly jumping 10 meters away. Fury had said that when a magician was teleported to the holy evil island, they would have a short few seconds to adjust. During this time, no matter if it was an enemy or a magical beast, they would not be able to cause any harm to them. This allowed the magician to adjust after entering the holy evil island and be prepared for any changes. Otherwise, once they were teleported to the side of a magical beast, they would be attacked before they could stand still. Wouldn't they die without a burial place? A few seconds of being unable to attack was enough for an elite magician to make a series of reactions, just like when Ji-dong put on the devil monarch yin-yang armor. At this time, Ji-dong still chose to pounce on his opponent, not caring about being discovered by his opponent. There was only one reason: he wanted to get close. Although Flying Serpent and Yin Zhaoyang had taught him many demonic skills, the demonic skill that Ji-dong was most proficient in and had the greatest offensive power was still the two sovereigns' close combat skills. Retreating was never in his character. When facing an enemy, Ji-dong's only choice was to attack. However, when Ji-dong rushed out and saw the enemy who was teleported, he couldn't help but be slightly stunned. The person who was teleported 10 meters away from him by the black light was a girl wearing dark green armor. This girl was tall and slender, even taller than the current Yin-yang Hall's first seat, Yi Xin. Especially her armor. It looked more like an alluring bikini. Her chest was covered in dark green armor, bulging exaggeratedly, revealing two patches of snow-white skin, with a deep ravine in the middle. Her shoulders and arms were covered by the armor, but her lower abdomen was exposed. That short battle skirt was just enough to cover the mysterious part of her lower body. Her two straight and slender legs were completely exposed. All the way to her calves were protected by battle boots. Her godly dark green armor was filled with strange magic patterns, like many coiled branches. What surprised Yidong the most was that she also had a pair of wings on her back. The huge dark green wings formed a background, accentuating her almost perfect figure. Her long dark green hair was scattered behind her head, and on top of her head was a 5-crown 4-star crown. Whether it was the color of her armor, her aura, or the vine brand on the crown, it could be seen that this was an Ewood Magic Master and a level 58 Ewood Great Grandmaster at that. The only difference from the Ewood Magic Masters that Jidong had seen before was that around her body, including the outer ring of the crown, there was a layer of faint black light, not golden light. This was also the characteristic of the 5 Elements continent. The mask on this girl's face only covered the area above her nose. One could see her snow-white skin and bright red lips. Her dark green eyes were sparkling, and she also noticed Jidong. When she saw Jidong pouncing towards her like lightning, she reacted immediately. The mask of the Jun Mo Yang armor looked so ferocious, especially the bloody holes, which made people feel fear from the bottom of their hearts. However, the eyes of the female Ewood Great Grandmaster did not waver at all. The dark green light shone, and the color of her armor changed almost at the same time as the Jun Mo Yang armor on Jidong's body. Chapter 142. The dark red Devil Lord Yang armor instantly became a brilliant golden red. The dazzling golden light instantly raised Jidong's aura to the limit. Although the woman in front of him looked like a rare beauty, Jidong's heart at this moment only had a cold, killing intent. In this world full of unknowns, in this place where one could encounter fatal threats at any time, being kind to the enemy was cruel to oneself. Furthermore, the opponent's magical power was 10 levels higher than his. If he held back at this time, it would definitely bring him great trouble. Therefore, Jidong did not hesitate at all. The ultimate Yang fire completely erupted, and the mysteries of the Flame Monarch condensed in an instant. His entire body had already become completely golden red within the Devil Lord Yang armor and the Vermilion Bird inner armor. The huge illusory image of the Flame Monarch vaguely replaced the totem and appeared behind him. The surging magic power continued to be absorbed and transformed. A huge golden cone almost instantly took shape. It was the Flame Monarch's sure kill technique, the forbidden 100,000 brilliant sun cone nail that had once instantly killed the Enyang school's second great grandmaster Shiyang, Ji Feng. What Jidong wanted to do was to kill in one blow. Not only would he not relax or be lenient because the opponent was a woman, he also wanted to use the shortest amount of time to finish off the opponent. Who knew whether or not another enemy would be sent here in the next moment? Ji Feng had also been level 58 at that time, and the earth element had a certain restraining effect on the fire element, but he had still been instantly killed by Jidong's attack. In his view, the woman in front of him would still be restrained by the second wood element, and the third fire element was practically a complete counter to the second wood element. The opponent simply had no chance, and he didn't need to use the Flame Monarch body to release the ultimate technique. If he could instantly kill the opponent, then Jidong would absolutely not waste magical power to release a stronger technique. However, at the same time that Jidong condensed the Flame Monarch's ultimate technique, his expression changed slightly. Of course, the opponent could not see all of this. The reason for Jidong's miscalculation was very simple. Following his extremely powerful charge, the ultimate technique condensed, and the opponent's body that was still hidden in the black light also underwent a strange change. The dark green armor suddenly lit up, and a huge yellow lotus unfurled behind it. In the next moment, all the colors on the armor turned into a lustrous white. There was no doubt that there was a huge difference between dark green and white. When the two colors changed, it gave off a strong visual impact. Even though Jidong's eye patch was dyed red due to the armor, he could still clearly see the changes in his opponent's body. Dong had seen Yao Qianshu's extreme first wood magical power. That jade-like extreme yang would had once brought him considerable shock. However, if Yao Qianshu's would attribute magical power was like the king of hard jade, then the magical power released by the woman in front of him at this time was like the king of soft jade. At this moment, two words suddenly emerged in Dong's mind: extreme Inwood. Before coming out, Dong was still thinking about whether it was good or bad luck for him to encounter an opponent from the Dark Five Elements continent. However, he was now sure that he was very unlucky, or rather, very unlucky. What did extreme Would magical power represent? If everything Yao Qianshu said was correct, then the opponent he encountered now was one of the heavenly stem saints of the opponent's continent. Imu Saint. Extreme magical power and ordinary magical power were completely different. There was still a 10-level gap between the two sides. Although Dong had many trump cards, the battle in front of him was not easy, and he was bound to fall into a bitter struggle. All of this flashed through Dong's mind like lightning. No matter what, he had to defeat his opponent first. The pure white lotus floated and rotated. The body of the dark Imu Saint was completely hidden in the six-petal white lotus behind her the moment the black light that teleported her here disappeared. The six-petal yellow lotus represented the Imu totem, 6 directions. 6 directions was also the only plant-type divine beast among the 10 heavenly stem divine beasts. When the extreme Wood magical power turned from dark green to pure white, the 6-petal yellow lotus also turned into a 6-petal white lotus, or more accurately, a 6-petal jade lotus. This was also the ultimate skill that the Dark Imu Saint in front of him had released. The 6-petal jade lotus spun violently. Just as the black light disappeared, the majestic and vast forbidden 100,000 and brilliant sun cone nails, which were filled with a violent aura, met the white jade lotus that was full of vitality and soft and pleasant. Extreme magical power against extreme magical power naturally would not result in any attribute suppression. Extreme yang fire countered extreme wood, and indeed produced a strong effect. Almost in an instant, the difference in magical power between the two sides was made up. The tip of the huge, brilliant sun cone nail went straight for the center of the white lotus, and the 6 white lotus petals also spun violently at the same time, cutting towards the brilliant sun cone nail. Boom! A strange magical explosion appeared. Although this was not the first person that Dong had met with extreme magical power, she was definitely the first opponent that had it. At the moment when the two ultimate magical powers collided, there was only one feeling in Dong's consciousness, and that was softness. The opponent's magic power was actually soft as cotton, layered over one another. The terrifying, explosive force of the brilliant sun all was frantically neutralized by that soft touch. The feeling of having no place to use his power caused the scorching heat of his ultimate flame to be greatly reduced. However, the final victor was still Dong. The surging explosion with a dazzling brilliance shot into the sky. With the two as the center, more than 10 giant trees within a diameter of 100 meters collapsed with a loud bang. The air below 10 meters was also filtered by a layer of intense rippling light. The two colors of gold and white flickered in the continuous trembling, leaving deep marks on the giant trees like sharp blades. Boom! There was another explosion, and the woman whose armor had already turned milky white flew backwards, heavily bombarding a giant tree that was nearly 100 meters away. More than half of her body was embedded in the tree, and with a cry, she spat out a mouthful of blood. Dong, on the other hand, stood in place, his body twisting strangely from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. A layer of deep blue light flashed from the golden vermilion bird inner armor, dissipating all of the impact force. In this collision between the two, in the end, Dong still had the upper hand. The difference between their levels was made up for by the fact that their attributes countered each other and the fact that they attacked first. Both of them were wearing light armor, and from the current situation, the abilities that their armors carried were not much different. The real difference was in Ji Dong's vermilion bird armor. The vermilion bird armor amplified him, allowing him to send the dark emu saint, who was 10 levels higher than him, flying when he exploded with a brilliant sun cone nail. From this, it could be seen how powerful Ji Dong was at this moment. At this moment, the Jun Mo Yin Yang armor on Ji Dong's body underwent a strange change. On his pauldrons, 3 spikes appeared diagonally upwards, each spike about 7 inches long. At the same time, spikes also appeared on his elbow guards, hand guards, knees, the tips of his boots, and heels. Coupled with a mask with blood-red pupils, at this moment, he looked like a ferocious demon god. While Ji Dong was surprised, his opponent could only be described as horrified. Ji Dong's guess was not wrong at all. The opponent in front of him was the emu saint of the 5 Elements continent, named Scorpion. Her name had a very strange origin. Even her companions did not know what her real name was. They only knew that she was called Scorpion. She was cold and powerful. Even among the dark heavenly stem saints, her cultivation could be ranked in the top 5. How could she think that she would be injured as soon as she came to the Holy Evil Island? Seeing the golden flames blooming all over Ji Dong's body, Scorpion realized that the situation was not good. She made the most correct response of the first time and released the ultimate emu saint skill, 6-petal jade lotus. This powerful skill was similar to Yao Qianshu's green jade dragon. Although it saved her life, the attack of the Xingwu primordial yang sacred fire was not so easy to resolve. The blood she spat out turned into a flame in the air. Fortunately, the ultimate emu saint was best at healing. From this point of view, it was even better than the first wood. Layers of milky white light swirled around Scorpion's body, quickly healing her internal injuries. At the same time, she struggled and leaped down like lightning, crouching quietly on the ground like a scorpion. Her hands were spread apart on either side of her body, and the wings on her back unfurled at the same time. She stared coldly at her opponent, who was filled with a violent aura, like a tyrant of a generation. His entire body exuded a terrifying aura, but he only had 4 crowns. Not in a hurry to pursue, Ji Dong took a deep breath. The yin and yang swirl calmed down by itself. He quickly took off the gauntlet on his hand, turned his wrist, and there were 2 more things in his hand. Because he was a little anxious before, although he put on the devil yin yang armor, he did not put on his dual brilliance of sun and moon gloves. This pair of gloves made of 2 7th-rank dark fire crystal crowns would undoubtedly increase his attack power to a higher level. With a clanging sound, the gauntlet was reconnected to the gauntlet, and the faint golden light made the cloud patterns on the devil yin-yang armor become clear. Ji Dong walked step by step towards the dark emu, Saint Disciple Scorpion. Scorpion's eyes were as sharp as needles at this time. She clearly knew that she had encountered a deadly opponent, and it was likely to be the 3rd Fire Saint Disciple on the 5 Elements mainland. The halo of light flowed, and a long white whip quietly appeared in Scorpion's right palm. The long whip was crystal clear and pure white, just like the armor on her body, but there were many barbs about an inch long on it. At first glance, it was impossible to tell whether it was made of metal or plants, but the faint magic fluctuations emitted from it merged with Scorpion in an instant. It made her own aura increase a little. For all this, Ji Dong did not seem to see it, and still walked forward step by step. The terrifying appearance of the devil yin-yang armor, coupled with the great power brought by the aura released from his body, was constantly increasing with each step he took. With each step he took, a golden red footprint would be left on the ground, and the magic on Ji Dong's body would also expand a little, and the flame monarch totem behind him would become clearer. Both of them were saints. Under the premise that there was no absolute difference in strength, Scorpion would not easily retreat even if she felt the tremendous pressure brought by the other party. This was a battle between saints. If she easily retreated this time, then it would inevitably have a psychological shadow in her heart. The next time she met Ji Dong, it would be even more impossible for her to defeat him, especially when the opponent in front of her seemed to be 10 levels lower than her in terms of magic. As for the result of the previous blow, Scorpion told herself in her heart that it was caused by the attribute restriction and lack of preparation. Her injury had been healed under the effect of the ultimate Ewood magic, and she had even taken a pill to restore magic. She firmly believed that if this battle continued, the winner would still be herself. Being able to kill a Saint of Light would undoubtedly be the biggest highlight of her participation in the battle of holy and evil, and it would be enough for her to die with glory. Unlike Scorpion, Ji-dong did not think too much. At this moment, there was only one thought in his mind, and that was to defeat and destroy his opponent. His determination to win made him focus all his body and mind on the battle in front of him. As the yin-yang whirlpool rapidly changed, the ultimate yang fire magic was fully unleashed. The distance between the two of them was getting closer and closer. Just when they were 30 meters away from each other, a golden flame suddenly condensed behind Ji-dong and turned into a huge circular array. It was the yang fire array. The shadow of the vermilion bird made the surroundings look golden, and his Singwu primordial yang fire, which had already burned to its limit, exploded in an instant. The yang fire array replaced the position of the flame monarch totem, and the shadow of the flame monarch totem merged with Ji-dong's body in an instant. Almost in the blink of an eye, Ji-dong had already transformed into the flame monarch. The wings on his back suddenly spread out and flapped rapidly, bringing his 3-meter-tall body straight towards the dark Ewood Saint Scorpion like a meteor. The expression in Scorpion's eyes finally changed. There was a clear change of fear in her eyes. As a saint, how could she not recognize what the 5 elements array that appeared behind Ji-dong was? However, what scared her the most was not this, but Ji-dong's flame monarch transformation. Ji-dong, who had transformed into the flame monarch body, had already made her feel a kind of attribute suppression aura. As one of the heavenly stem saints, this was the first time in her life that she had felt this way. How could she not be afraid? However, Scorpion was indeed a heavenly stem saint. She did not choose to retreat, even though her emotions were fluctuating. She let out an ear-piercing scream and flapped her wings to soar up. Her wings were part of her armor, and in the process of flapping, there was a series of metal explosions. The long whip in her hand was straight, and it went straight towards Ji-dong like a long spear. Chapter 143. A cold snort came from the mouth of Ji-dong, who had the flame monarch body. He stretched out his right hand, and the 3 golden spikes protruding from the fist peak of his fist directly pointed at the sharp tip of the long whip with dazzling golden flames. At this moment, Scorpion burst out of strong fighting power. She held the whip with both hands and shook her wrists suddenly. The 30-meter-long, soft whip trembled violently like a snake spitting out its tongue. Suddenly, dozens of whip shadows appeared in front of Ji-dong. The most peculiar thing was that on the tip of the whip, the ultimate Ewood magic condensed into a point, full of strong magic light. If it were other opponents, they might be directly stimulated by the strong light on the tip of the whip, causing visual discomfort. Unfortunately, she encountered Ji-dong. All Ji-dong could see in front of him was only one color, blood red. No matter how bright the light was, it had been completely filtered at this moment. In the face of so many light shadows, Ji-dong's reaction was very simple, so simple that it made people's hair stand on end. Rush forward. Yes, only rush forward. He did not care about the opponent's strong attack skills at all. His 2 heads drew a circle in front of him at the same time. The ultimate yang fire magic formed a whirlpool and burst out, trying to shake off the soft whip that had turned into a long spear. Then he went straight to the center and went straight to the front of Scorpion. "Barbarian, go to hell." Scorpion shouted and poured out all her magic power. All the whip shadows merged into one, and finally turned into a point, heavily pointing at the position between Ji-dong's chest and lower abdomen. Scorpion's choice was ingenious. After all, Ji-dong's noble yin and yang armor could not protect his whole body. It was only a light armor. The position she chose was where the internal organs were, one of the softest parts of the human body, and it could produce extremely destructive power. When this point touched Ji-dong's body, Scorpion could not help but feel a trace of joy in her heart. She believed that even if the opponent was still wearing soft armor, it could not be compared with the defense of the magic armor outside. With her ultimate magic power, it should be easy to break the opponent's defense. But could she really get what she wanted? In the next moment, Scorpion was completely shocked. A dark blue light quietly appeared on the golden vermilion bird armor. Just as her whip touched the area between Ji-dong's chest and abdomen, the armor, muscles, and veins in that position slightly squirmed, giving Scorpion the feeling that she had been whipped by a stick, but it had hit the extremely tough tendons. After all, the soft whip was 30 feet long. After passing through such a distance, the magic power would be weakened. Moreover, the flame monarch body was so huge. To want to pass through it and hit Ji-dong's body, the ultimate Imu magic power had already been consumed a lot. When it came close, Ji-dong's vermilion bird transformation and soaring serpent transformation were not to be trifled with. After following the heavenly stemmed divine beast soaring serpent for a year, although Ji-dong's soaring serpent transformation could not really reach the level of invincibility like the soaring serpent, it could be said that he had obtained the essence of it. Even with the strength of Fury's 7 crowns, it would be difficult to hurt him. Although Scorpion was the ultimate Imu, under the situation of so many weakening factors, the only feeling that this whip brought to Ji-dong was a little pain. And at the same time that this whip touched Ji-dong, the moment Scorpion's mind relaxed, Ji-dong's right hand had already grabbed the tip of the whip. After more than a year of hard training, the current him was no longer a tyrant who only knew how to act recklessly, but a king full of wisdom. The timing of this grab could be said to be perfect. Scorpion's flexible whip could not be retracted in time. An ear-piercing sound of friction rang out. The sharp spikes on the tip of the soft whip were actually twisted by Ji-dong's extremely powerful claw. But even so, the spikes did not melt in the ultimate third fire. Obviously, this soft whip was made of an extraordinary material. Ji-dong suddenly waved his right arm, and the wings behind him retracted at the same time. With this full force, his whole body had already crashed into the opponent like a cannonball. Didn't you say that I'm a barbarian? Then I'll show you how barbarian I am. Scorpion was pulled by Ji-dong's right hand, and her whole body had lost some balance in the air. Although she tried her best to mobilize her magic to stabilize her body, how could the explosive power of Imu compare with third fire? Just as she lost her balance, Ji-dong had already rushed up. With a wave of his right hand, the first thing that hit Scorpion was her own soft whip. At this time, Scorpion's quality as a saint once again showed itself. She did not try to control her soft whip, but loosened her hand. Following the force of Ji-dong, her body leaned sideways in the air, and she gave up her magic weapon. At the same time, with the force of sideways, her body rotated in the air, and she blasted a punch at Ji-dong. Suddenly, countless white lights came over like vines, turned into a big white flash, and went straight to Ji-dong's head. Soft and tough, these were the characteristics of Imu. At the same time that the punch blasted out the big net, Scorpion finally had the intention to retreat. In the face of Ji-dong's ferocious, barbaric, tyrannical, and violent attacks, there was only a sense of powerlessness in her heart. She knew that if she did not adjust well, there was no chance of winning against the enemy in front of her. Therefore, at the same time that the punch blasted out the fatal skill, she also spread her wings at the same time, and her body shot out like a cannonball straight into the air. Before leaving, she did not forget to use her magic to grab her long whip back. "Do you want to leave?" Ji-dong deliberately lowered his voice, making it sound a little hoarse. His hands had already firmly grasped the ultimate Imu net that was coming towards him. Before the fatal skill could shrink, Ji-dong's fists were already burning with a light that was almost like the sun, and he pulled left and right, forcibly tearing the big net in half. At the same time, his flaming monarch body began to spin violently and soared into the sky. The Yang fire condensation array behind him instantly transformed into the Yang fire soaring array. Although it was launched later, it caught up with Scorpion in the blink of an eye as its speed increased by 3 times. In the face of an opponent like Ji-dong, Scorpion's cries of bad luck had far exceeded the cries of Ji-dong himself at the beginning. She could not bear the feeling of being completely suppressed by her opponent when her magic power was 10 levels higher than her opponent's. Feeling that Ji Dong was getting closer, the dark Emu Saint finally exploded. An ear-piercing scream rang out. In the air, Scorpion suddenly turned around and made a complicated hand gesture in front of her chest one after another. The Emu Totem, 6 harmonies, appeared behind her again, and a dazzling white light with an unparalleled breath of life bloomed out. In the surrounding forest, a large amount of dark green energy surged out. Don't forget, this was a forest, the most suitable place for wood element magicians to fight. In a moment of desperation, Scorpion had already used her own life magic. With a puff, a mouthful of blood sprayed from the Scorpion's mouth. In an instant, the white lotus in her palms turned the color of blood, and the 6 harmonies behind her also turned into a white flame that rose into the air. Ji Dong's eyes narrowed. Although he did not know this kind of skill, he clearly knew what it was. Yin Zhaoyang had once carefully explained to him how terrifying this kind of skill was. Life combustion skill? Scorpion said fiercely, "We Emu have strong vitality, and now you know that this is life combustion skill? It's too late. Go to hell." Ultimate skill, Blood Lotus Dharma Wheel. As she said that, she had already made a gesture with her jade white palm. The blood lotus in her palm was already spinning violently, and with countless mysterious symbols, it went straight for Ji Dong's chest. At the moment when the blood lotus left her palm, with their bodies as the center, within a radius of 10 meters, everything turned into a blood-red light ball. Ji Dong had no possibility of dodging, and could only take this blow. Scorpion was right. This life-burning skill, among the 10 magicians, only the first wood magician and the second wood magician had enough strength to barely use it in actual combat. For the other 8 magicians, the negative effect of using the life-burning skill once would reduce their lifespan by at least 5 years. No one dared to use such a skill easily. It was precisely because of this that this life-burning skill was so terrifying. Scorpion relied on her extreme emu body. Her vitality was endless, and she also used the life aura brought by a large number of surrounding plants to launch this attack, which would also hurt her vitality, in order to severely injure Ji Dong. She would rather endure in the second half of this holy and evil battlefield than endure the pain of being chased and beaten. There was no way to avoid it. This was the problem Ji Dong was facing at this time. He could also clearly feel that this blow, even his flame monarch body, could not bear it. The life combustion skill, this had already surpassed the scope of the top ultimate skill, not to mention that its user was a heavenly stem saint. But at this time, Ji Dong made the most correct response, and it was also the best way he could think of now. The flame monarch body dissipated in the air in an instant. The original brilliant golden color instantly turned into a dazzling black. The golden flame shrank back, and most of it was sucked back into Ji Dong's body. Such a fierce devouring of the released magic power. Even if he had the yin and yang vortex and the chaos origin, the blood in his body could not help but surge violently. If it weren't for the flying serpent transformation that made his bones and internal organs extremely tough, he would have been seriously injured. It was also at this moment that the yin and yang vortex in Ji Dong's body rotated violently at an unparalleled extreme speed. The yin and yang vortex that was completely golden before had completely turned black in an instant, and the yang fire soaring array had also turned into a yin fire condensing array at the same time. With such a switch, even Ji Dong, who was an ultimate dual fire-type demon master, had to endure an incomparably huge pressure. A tearing pain continuously came from his body, causing him to have no choice but to directly use the flying serpent strength transformation technique on his own body. But with such a change, Ji Dong's body was released from the original state of the Flame Monarch. At this time, his Demon Lord Yin-Yang armor and the vermilion bird inner armor on his body had also completely turned black. The golden mask had turned into a black mask. The mutation from a tyrant to a demon king caused Scorpion, who was not far from Ji Dong, to be stunned. Her red lotus wheel also naturally stopped trembling for a moment. This moment was enough for Jidong. The resonant cry of a phoenix suddenly sounded behind Jidong. A glaring black color instantly expanded, turning into a black phoenix with incomparably condensed fire magic power. It instantly fused into the fire condensing array that Jidong had released and fused into itself. Jidong's body collided once again. In this originally impossible situation, the Dark Flame Devil King body was switched in the blink of an eye. Actual combat, especially a battle of life and death, would always be the most effective shortcut to increase a magic master's combat experience and skills. In front of this life ignition magic skill, Jidong had done something that he had never done before. The switch from the Flame Monarch body to the Dark Flame Devil King body was instantaneous. Although this switch was completed with the help of Eclipse Phoenix Hua, there was no doubt that this would still be a milestone for Jidong's skills. If there was a day when he could really switch between the two Monarch bodies, what level would his skills reach? Ever since Jidong could complete the Flame Monarch body transformation, although his strength had greatly increased, he had lost the ability to fuse yin and yang like before. When carrying out the full bloom of one type of ultimate magic power, it was too difficult to switch to another type. It wasn't that magic power couldn't be converted, but that time didn't allow it. Even the last time he faced Fury, he had used various methods to make Fury take a hit from his flaming ice, and only then did he have enough time to convert. However, Jidong didn't dare to try the Dark Flame Devil King body transformation like this. The burden on his body from extreme yang to extreme yin was too great, and the burden on his magic power was too severe. At this moment, Jidong relied on the protection of the Flying Serpent Strength Transformation spell, his powerful yin-yang vortex, and the help of the chaotic flames that maintained the balance to forcibly complete this supposedly impossible task. Scorpion was aghast. The surrounding blazing and explosive aura was completely withdrawn, making her extremely uncomfortable. She obviously knew that she couldn't relax at this moment and had to severely injure the opponent in front of her. However, the dominant magic power in the air had undergone such a drastic change. Even if she urged it with all her might, she still couldn't help but be affected. This was the negative effect of changing from extreme yang to extreme yin. Is he a god? Why does he have dual ultimate flames? Why is he able to switch between two completely opposite types of magic power in this kind of situation after using his ultimate skill? From Scorpion's point of view, Jidong's Flame Monarch body transformation was a sure kill skill in itself. However, no matter what she was thinking at this moment, she still launched that attack, the one that would decide the outcome of the battle. The Dark Flame Devil King's tranquility and coldness were also displayed perfectly at this moment. Chapter 144. In front of Jidong, Sovereign Ao and seemed incomparably tall. In front of him, Scorpion, as a Darkamu saint, actually felt incomparably small. The pressure of his aura greatly impacted her belief that her life combustion skill would definitely win. A pitch-black crescent moon quietly appeared behind Jidong, right above his head. All the treetops, branches, and leaves were all turned to ash. In the sky, the dark clouds were also dispersed at this moment, forming a circular hole. The pitch-black crescent moon shone in the sky, shining brilliantly with the black moon behind Jidong. Jidong raised his left hand horizontally at his side, his palms spread out in the shape of a claw, elegant and cold. Under the background of the deathly darkness, the black moon in the sky shot down a pitch-black ray of light and fell on his left hand. At the same time, the black moon behind him and all the darkness brought by the Dark Flame Devil King merged together. The moon will make you think of me. Forbidden, 100,000, Phoenix Dance, Nether Flame Ice. All the darkness condensed into a dancing black flame in the shape of a phoenix above Jidong's left hand. That black flame could actually reflect a strange light. It was clearly a flame, but it gave off a strange feeling like ice. In the next moment, this ball of cold, strange black flame spread its wings with an almost hysterical arrogance, directly pouncing towards the life combustion skill, Blood Lotus Dharma Wheel. There was no astonishing aura, only a coldness that was as cold as ice, as well as a deep and gloomy silence. The surrounding giant trees were originally injecting a huge amount of life force into the scorpion's body, but at this moment, they had completely changed direction. They were devoured by the deep and gloomy dark phoenix, cutting off the supply of the dark Imu saints. If the Blood Lotus Dharma Wheel was a life skill, then Nether Flame Ice was a life-devouring skill. This time, it was no longer an elemental counter, but an all-around counter. Forbidden 100,000 Nether Flame Ice was originally the nemesis of all life skills. This was also why Ji Dong did not hesitate to try and injure his body in the state of the Dark Flame Devil King to launch this attack. Black and Red, Phoenix and Blood Lotus, Extreme Fire and Extreme Imu Saint, life-devouring skill and life combustion. When the two skills collided, the black moon in the sky disappeared, and the dark clouds filled the air again. If not for the damage to the crown of the tree, it seemed as if nothing had changed. There were no explosions from the collision, nor were there any powerful shockwaves from the collision of skills. There was only silence in the air. The black phoenix disappeared, leaving behind only a six-petal lotus. However, it was no longer a blood lotus, nor was it surrounded by the secret runes. This six-petal lotus had turned completely black, a gloomy black. It was as black as the eternal black ice. With a puff, the burning flame of life on the scorpion's back quietly extinguished, as if it had been extinguished. Everything around it turned gloomy. Only the black lotus was gradually withering with the erosion of the darkness, its petals melting and disintegrating. Finally, it turned into specks of black light and dissipated in the air. "No, this is impossible," Scorpion cried out in disbelief. Ji Dong's cold voice rang out. "In this world, nothing is impossible." The Dark Flame Devil King physique had been removed, and a magic power recovery pill had been thrown into his mouth. Whether it was him or Scorpion, they had to pause for a short while. Their magic power had been greatly consumed, and they needed a short interval to recover. But there was no doubt that Ji Dong only consumed magic power, while Scorpion consumed magic power and life force. She had already suffered a great loss of vitality, and it was easier said than done to recover. In fact, Ji Dong could have used another method to resist her life combustion skill, and that was to release the power of the 4 dragons and 4 snakes stored in the yin-yang crown on his head. Although the energy condensed by the yin-yang life continuation array was not enough to threaten Fury, facing an opponent who had not even reached the 6 crowns. Even if the opponent released the life combustion skill, the power of the 8 divine beasts was enough to resist. The reason why Ji Dong did not do this was because he did not want to use up his life-saving trump card as soon as he entered the holy evil battlefield. This was an ability he would only use when the 2 sovereigns' conversion was unsuccessful. Moreover, he also had to be careful if there would be more experts from the 5 Elements continent being teleported here. If there was another saint, then he would not be able to fight against it. Of course, now Ji Dong did not need to worry about any more demon masters coming here. According to the time, all the teleportation had already ended. Ji Dong had paid a considerable price for the previous attack. The burden of the Dark Flame Devil King physique, the top-notch sure-kill skill in such a state, and the consumption of the Eclipse Phoenix's flame made it seem like the Blood Lotus Dharma wheel was easily disintegrated. But in fact, Ji Dong had almost used his strongest skill. Facing off in the air, Scorpion seemed to feel that her life was about to wither like the Blood Lotus from before. The elegant and profound Dark Flame Devil King, in her opinion, was even more terrifying than the ruthless Flame Sovereign. The elegant coldness on Ji Dong's body and the black yin-yang crown on his head made her feel waves of chills. The negative effects of the consumption of her life force had already appeared. The feeling of weakness constantly attacked her brain. What was even more terrifying was that Feng Wu's quiet flame ice had not only melted her Blood Lotus Dharma wheel, it had also cut off her connection with all the surrounding plants. At this time, Ji Dong's eyes had already lit up. Those blood-red holes, as well as the Monarch Devil yin-yang armor full of spikes, gave people a deep sense of fear. At this time, Scorpion no longer had any will to resist. The wings on her back suddenly flapped, and facing Ji Dong, her body retreated like lightning. The long whip once again appeared in her hands, and she quickly lashed out. However, she did not attack Ji Dong, but the giant tree closest to her. Ji Dong also unfurled his vermilion bird wings. He had already completely suppressed his opponent. Of course, he would not give his opponent a chance to escape. His figure flashed, and he had already chased after her. Scorpion used all her strength to whip, bringing with it an extreme emu white light, and touched the giant tree. Instantly, all the branches of the giant tree were faintly dyed with the same white light, and frantically wrapped around Ji Dong's body, trying to stop Ji Dong's advance. As long as she was given a certain amount of time, she had the confidence to escape. However, how could Ji Dong, whom even her burning magic skill could not stop, be so easy to stop? He waved his hands in the air, and an extreme fire shot out. Wherever it passed, the air was distorted. The moment the fire touched the branches, they immediately lost their connection and softly drooped down. It was not that the extreme emu magic was broken, but that their vitality was directly deprived, and they could no longer be driven by the extreme emu magic. At the same time, Ji Dong spread his hands, and the thorns on the monarch devil yin-yang armor were incomparably sharp. None of the branches could entangle his body. In a flash, he broke through the encirclement and rushed forward to chase. Both of their extreme magic were recovering, but Scorpion, who had already been seriously injured, could not make an effective counterattack. The only thing she could do now was to escape and use the giant trees in the forest to cover herself. One after another, the giant trees were infected by her extreme emu magic and blocked Ji Dong's way. They kept going deeper into the holy evil island, one chasing the other, and the other escaping. At the moment when the seventh giant tree was broken by the sharp blade of the monarch devil yin-yang armor, suddenly, a black shadow rushed at Ji Dong from the side. It was extremely fast, and dozens of cyan lights locked on Ji Dong. Ji Dong's heart trembled. His first thought was that the enemy's helper had come. He suddenly withdrew his wings and instantly descended. At the same time, he turned around and punched out. Suddenly, dozens of golden red lights shot out. This was the hit skill taught by Yin Zhaoyong, Dragon Scale Flash. Ji Dong looked like he was punching out, but at the same time, his fingers were rapidly flicking. Each golden red light was a scale-like magic. Each magic was extremely condensed and had a strong penetrative and explosive power. If it couldn't penetrate the enemy's attack, then it would explode on its own, releasing a powerful attack. Although it was inferior to the Monarch skill, it had a wide attack range and was easy to control. With a popping sound, the dozens of cyan lights were instantly shattered. Ji Dong's golden red light swept past the black shadow. With a miserable scream, the black shadow turned into a golden fireball. Only then did Ji Dong see that it wasn't a helper. It was just a magical beast that seemed to be around the third rank. Due to the intense burning of the extreme yang fire, he didn't even have time to see the appearance of the magical beast. With the help of this moment, Scorpion's figure flashed and disappeared. It was really too easy for a wood-attribute magician to hide in the forest. Ji Dong just slightly relaxed his mind that was locked on her, and she escaped. Spreading his wings, Ji Dong paused in the air for a moment. He didn't get angry because of his opponent's escape. Instead, he became even more vigilant. As the saying goes, don't chase a cornered enemy, don't enter a forest. He had already been too persistent. In this holy evil battlefield, there were too many unknown things. Who knew if he would encounter other enemies? It was better to be cautious. Withdrawing his own magic, Ji Dong's figure flashed. He first landed on the ground and collected the crystal core of the dead magic beast. Sure enough, it was a third-rank magic beast. Strangely, in the face of his yang fire, this third-rank first-wood element magic beast didn't have any intention of dodging. This alone showed the uncertainties of the holy evil battlefield. After retrieving the crystal core, Ji Dong soared into the air and entered a large tree with a lush canopy. He hid himself and paid attention to his surroundings while slowly recovering his mana. At this time, just a dozen trees away from Jidong's residence, the scorpion was also hiding in the dense foliage. Releasing her own ultimate with magic to hide her figure, she slowly gasped for breath. Her eyes were cold. Previously, with the help of a magic beast's sudden attack on Jidong, she escaped, but her body was already soaked in cold sweat. If the person attacked by the magic beast just now was her, she was afraid that at this time, she would be suffering from Jidong's storm-like attacks. With the help of a trace of luck, she was temporarily safe. But the scorpion was scorpion. As soon as she was safe, she was ready to attack at any time. Although Jidong's strength was strong, she believed that with her own strength, once the sneak attack was successful, she could still kill this opponent. Forbearance, coldness, and a fatal blow were the characteristics of the scorpion. After hiding her figure, she paid full attention to Jidong's movements. Once he dared to approach her, with the wood concealment technique, she would definitely launch a sneak attack on Hyoheim. She was extremely unwilling to lose this battle, but she had nothing to say. She never thought that she would encounter an ultimate dual fire devil. Since Jidong could learn about the heavenly stem saints through Yao Qianshu, how could Scorpion not know about the legends of the saints? Although Jidong's magic power seemed to be only at level 48, she, like Yao Qianshu, had already locked Jidong as her greatest enemy. He was one of the heavenly stem saints of the light continent of the five elements, and might even be the holy king of this generation. If she could kill Jidong, for her, it was tantamount to defeating all her enemies, and her position among the dark heavenly stem saints would definitely be greatly improved. However, it turned out that Jidong's coldness was not only reflected in his ruthlessness in battle, but also his calmness far beyond that of ordinary people. After encountering an obstacle, he did not pursue, but quietly hid in the canopy, and similarly restrained his breath, so that the scorpion could no longer feel his existence. At this moment, the situation had once again become disadvantageous for the scorpion. She did not dare to act rashly, and did not even dare to absorb the life aura in the trees to replenish her exhausted vitality. She knew that at least within 10 days, she would definitely not be able to recover to her best state. If she was targeted by Jidong in her current state, it would be a situation of 9 out of 10 survival. Therefore, she did not dare to move. She could only wait for Jidong to leave, or for a chance to launch a sneak attack. Although Jidong did not know that the scorpion was hidden not far away, his vigilance had greatly increased after the previous battle. He hid in the canopy and was not in a hurry to leave. He slowly absorbed the magical elements in the air and did not even use the 5 elements formation to assist him. The magic in his body was accumulating bit by bit, and the scenes of the previous battle kept flashing in his mind. He constantly thought about his strengths and weaknesses in the battle. Such a battle of life and death was really good for improving his actual combat ability, especially when he switched between the 2 sovereigns' demonic skills. Jidong calculated carefully. If he was in his peak state, even without Little Flame's help, he should be able to switch between the 2 sovereigns once, and each blow would be a sure kill skill. There was no doubt that this was also the most terrifying attack he could achieve at the moment. Even a 7-crown powerhouse like Fury would be seriously injured if he were to face this ultimate sure kill skill that could produce the effect of a combination skill. Chapter 145. Thanks to the special characteristics of the yin-yang vortex and the chaotic flame, Jidong's magic power was completely restored in a short time. Although the previous battle was difficult, his tough body did not suffer any injuries. After a simple observation of the surroundings, he decided to leave this place first. After arriving at the Heavenly Stem Core, Fury had been explaining the situation of the Holy Evil Battlefield to Hyoheim in detail. The Holy Evil Battlefield was divided into 18 layers, or rather 18 regions. Everyone who entered the Holy Evil Battlefield through the Holy Evil Passage would be teleported to the outermost region. The Holy Evil Island was extremely vast. It was almost as big as half a country in the 5 Elements continent. After entering the Holy Evil Battlefield, Whether it was the Five Elements continent or the Five Elements continent, the elite magicians would try their best to meet with their companions. Then they would hunt magic beasts on the Holy Evil Island, search for traces of enemies, and treasure hunting. After thousands of years, especially after the initial war, it was unknown how many powerhouses had stayed on this island forever. Their magic weapons, crystal crowns, and even some skill books were all rare treasures. It was said that there were real divine weapons left here. Some magicians who had just reached the sixth crown hoped to find a suitable magic beast companion on the Holy Evil Island. Once they formed a contract with a human, the magic beasts on the Holy Evil Island would also be able to leave. The magic beasts on the Holy Evil Island, even if they were the same rank, were stronger than the magic beasts on the outside. The simplest example was Fury's Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon, which actually came from the Holy Evil Island. According to Fury, the Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon was a powerful magic beast born in the Myriad Lightning Calamity realm. This land was full of danger, but it was also full of opportunities. If a magician could find a suitable divine weapon, it wouldn't take long for them to become a true powerhouse. Among all the 18 layers of the Holy Evil Island, there was no doubt that the closer one was to the inner core, the more dangerous it would be, but at the same time, the more opportunities there would be. Fury said that the last time he entered the 10th layer, he encountered a powerful rank 9 magic beast. If it wasn't for the Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon, he might not have been able to leave this place alive. If the 10th layer was guarded by a rank 9 magic beast, then what would be on the 8th layer? This would undoubtedly lead to wild and fanciful thoughts. According to Fury's deployment, all the magicians of the 6 lights and 5 element continents were required to enter the 3rd layer in the shortest time possible to search for each other and gather together. The magical beasts, there were usually not more than level 5, so it was relatively safe. Only when most of the forces were gathered would it be possible for them to continue venturing deeper. After entering the 8 Saints' Evil Island, the most dangerous period of time was not the following battles, but the period of time before they met up with their companions from the same continent. Although this island was vast, no one knew what they would encounter. Just like Ji-dong, he directly encountered one of the heavenly stem saints from the opposite continent. Therefore, after Ji-dong recovered his mana, he immediately made a decision to enter the 3rd floor as soon as possible to look for free. To him, his only true partner was his senior. Fluttering down the tree, Ji-dong's movements were as light as a cat's, and he did not make any sound. Of course, he could fly over with the vermilion bird's wings, which would definitely be much faster. However, if he really did that, he would be courting death. The target in the sky was so obvious. In this world full of danger and blood, unless you had absolute strength, how many creatures would dare to fly into the sky and become the target of public criticism? Until Ji-dong floated away, Scorpion, who was not far away, gradually heaved a sigh of relief. She still did not move. Her cautious and calm nature made her still stay there. During the period when Ji-dong was cultivating and recovering his mana, her nerves had been maintaining a high degree of tension, observing the movements here. Now that she relaxed, a strong sense of exhaustion and weakness suddenly attacked her. Even if she was a wood magician, after releasing that ultimate skill that burned her vitality, it still made her tired to death. Fortunately, there were a lot of trees here. Slowly activating her mana, Scorpion began to silently restore her vitality. Moving forward close to the ground, Ji-dong's movements were extremely coordinated. Relying on his far superior flexibility, his upper body leaned forward, maintaining an oblique angle with the ground. His body seemed as if it would fall at any time. But even so, he tried to reduce his target as much as possible and quickly moved forward in the jungle. No thorns were enough to slow down his speed. He did not use his 3rd fire to clear them, so as to avoid the elemental fluctuations exposing his tracks. He directly crashed through them, relying on the vermilion bird's inner armor and the Junimo Inyang armor's toughness. He forcibly broke through the thorns. Boom! 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 The low roar attracted Ji-dong's attention. His forward rushing body suddenly slowed down. He had just left the previous tree for less than a quarter of an hour. This sudden roar was obviously not made by a human. Accompanying the roar was the trembling of the earth. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Golden flames rose. Jidong waved his right hand toward the ground. Suddenly, a cluster of golden flames floated to the ground. However, this cluster of flames was not used to attack. It was clearly visible that there were red spots of light condensing in the air from all directions. The third fire element was quickly absorbed by the small cluster of golden flames. Between the flashes of golden light, the cluster of golden flames actually stabilized. From the body, hands and feet popped out. Although there was no distinction between head and body, it looked really strange. But at this time, it actually looked like a living body. This skill was called Holy Body Summon. It was the life skill of the Flame Monarch that Jidong comprehended after his cultivation broke through to the 4th rank. It looked inconspicuous. The golden third Wu Yuan Yang Holy Fire Elemental Body was only 1 foot tall. Except for its charmingly naive appearance, there was nothing special about it. But in fact, we tried to use it for the first time. Jidong was surprised by its ability. Because after the words Holy Body Summon, there was also the annotation of the word evolvable. However, with Jidong's current strength, he could only summon this kind of holy fire elemental body. The sun crown on his head instantly turned into a yin crown. Jidong waved his left hand. This time, a black elemental body appeared, which was opposite to the holy fire elemental body. It was called the Devil Flame Elemental Body. The two guys were almost the same size. In the middle of their bodies, there seemed to be an eye condensed from flames. The rest were simple limbs. If one did not look carefully, they would only think that they were 2 simple fireballs. Jidong pointed in the direction of the roar and shouted softly, "Go!" The 2 groups of elemental bodies turned around and ran. With their short legs, of course, they could not run fast. The holy fire elemental body even fell, which looked a little strange. Elemental Summon could only summon 1 of each kind at any time. Currently, with Jidong's mental strength, he could freely control their movements within a range of 500 meters. Jidong carefully observed the surroundings, floated up, and entered the crown of a large tree. However, his thoughts were still fused with the 2 elemental bodies. At this time, they had already become Jidong's eyes. That alone was enough to show the practicality of this skill. Exploring with magical elements in unknown places was obviously much better than taking risks himself. Soon, the 2 elemental bodies saw the owner of the roar. It was a giant, 6 meters tall, with a piece of leather from an unknown magical beast around his waist. Other than that, his entire body was naked, revealing solid, dark muscles. There was a lot of dark green liquid on his body, which looked really disgusting. The most peculiar thing was that he only had 1 eye, which was in the middle of his forehead. It emitted a dark green light like the liquid on his hair and body. That green liquid seemed to be his own saliva. In his thick palm was a huge white bone that was nearly 4 meters long. It was unknown what kind of magical beast it belonged to. "This is a man-eating troll?" Jidong was shocked. Yin Zhaoyang had given him several precious magical beast atlases and asked him to read them carefully. The atlases recorded the characteristics, levels, and abilities of various magical beasts, including this man-eating troll. The man-eating troll was a kind of 5th-rank magical beast. It was tall, strong, and extremely powerful. It was an Earth attribute magical beast and also a humanoid magical beast. Its intelligence was much higher than ordinary magical beasts, and its defense was very strong. However, it had few skills. The only noteworthy thing was that its single eye could shoot out petrifying rays, which were very annoying. Once one was hit by it, one's body would become stiff, and in serious cases, one would be turned into stone. Just imagine, if one's body was petrified, then one's body would be crushed by its terrifying power. Jidong was not afraid of the man-eating troll. He was just relying on monsters. This was clearly the first floor of the Holy Evil Island. How could there be a 5th-rank magical beast here? While he was thinking, the man-eating troll single, I had already seen the 2 fire elemental bodies. Its single eye revealed a strange light, as if it was thinking about something. Immediately afterward, it madly strode towards the two elemental bodies. The earth-shaking roar suddenly became more intense. The holy fire elemental and devil flame elemental did not retreat from the charge of the man-eating troll. The two elemental bodies continued to absorb the elements in the air to strengthen themselves. Seeing the man-eating troll charging towards them, the two small fellows' bodies swelled up a bit. In the next moment, a crack appeared on their bodies, and a fireball of their own element whistled out. These two fireballs could not be underestimated. They were condensed from extreme yang flame and extreme yin flame. Before Jidong had his ultimate skill, his strongest attack was the extreme dual fireball combination. The reason why he made two elemental bodies move at the same time was so that they could coordinate with each other, greatly increasing their attack power. The two fireballs, one gold and one black, suddenly fused together in the air, turning into a golden and black fireball. The man-eating troll's body was quite large, so it was naturally difficult for it to dodge the fireball. However, what was surprising was that the big fellow actually made a very wise response. As it ran, it waved the bone club in its hand, bombarding the extreme dual fireball combination with great accuracy. In the midst of the loud bang, a violent explosion with a terrifying dual fire element suddenly erupted. The calm air suddenly became violent, and the man-eating troll's body also stopped for a moment because of the sudden explosion. However, a strange scene appeared. The huge bone club was actually undamaged under the explosion of the extreme dual fireball combination. Although its surface was burned red, the extreme dual fireball combination did not stick to it, nor did it explode into pieces. At this time, the holy fire elemental body and the devil flame elemental body showed their strength that could only be used after Jidong had the strength of a quadruple crown. Extreme dual fireballs continued to erupt, forming a chain of beads, one after another. Although each eruption would dim their own light a little, 7 or 8 extreme dual fireballs erupted in a row, condensing in the air into the extreme dual fireball combination skill of yin and yang, attacking the man-eating troll from different directions. Even a 6-crown demon master would be flustered in such a situation. The attack power of the extreme dual fireball combination was quite impressive, not to mention there were so many of them. The two elemental bodies were surrounded by circles of light that were similar to their original bodies. The violent fire elements in the air that came from the explosions were reabsorbed by them with every explosion. Although there were bound to be some that were missed, this was already a demonstration of their abilities. Although the man-eating troll's intelligence was higher than that of ordinary low-level magical beasts, it was not human, after all, and had not learned any skills. The bone club in its hand danced eagerly, and in the midst of the explosions, it was bombarded by the two little fellows. In a moment of carelessness, an extreme dual fireball combination had already arrived in front of it. This fellow's reaction was considered fast. A pale light shot out of its single eye, and in the loud bang, it used the petrification ray to detonate the fireball. However, in this way, the violent explosive force also caused it to take a few steps back before it could regain its balance. Its body was also burned by the flying sparks. In the cry of pain, the man-eating troll was furious. Although it blocked most of the extreme dual fireball combination, it was still forced to this point by two such small elemental bodies. It had never encountered such a situation. In its anger, it suddenly roared, and the bone club swept up on the ground. Huge rocks flew into the air and smashed towards the two elemental bodies. At this moment, a shadow suddenly appeared on the ground. It was the light that fell on the ground. A strong sense of danger caused the man-eating troll to look up. Its single eye immediately saw the golden-red figure with blood-red eyes. The wings of the vermilion bird spread out, and all the spikes on the demon Lord Yin-Yang armor shot out under the effect of magic. The Yang fire formation on its back shone brightly. At this moment, Jidong was like a real fire phoenix flying rapidly in the sky. The man-eating troll subconsciously swung its bone club, But the golden-red figure in the sky suddenly flashed strangely. In the next moment, it had already arrived above the man-eating troll's head with a violent and blazing aura.